Hello everyone, welcome along to our Cheltenham Festival 2022 preview. I'm delighted to be joined by two racing photographers and two very good friends in Jack and Tom Williams of JTW Equine Images. Guys, how are we?
How do?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Luca. How are you?
I'm good. So before we kick things off, a little bit about yourselves, guys, for people who don't know about you. You were both at Bangor Point to Point yesterday, but just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, we are two racing photographers from North Wales, Wrexham to be precise, and we've gone everywhere that we really have aspired to, apart from some of the major big meetings. But to some of them, to summarise up, we've done Down Royal, we've been to the Arc last year, which was incredible, and we've done racecourses such as York, Cheltenham, Warwick, Carlisle, and also other places such as Newcastle and Kempton, Sandown. Essentially, we have an unofficial motto: have car, will travel, and it just depends where the clients send us and whether or not we can get access. Because the big aim for us, and Jack will clarify this one, is it's RCA national accreditation and operating at the Cheltenham Festival. Missing out on this year, but hopefully, fingers crossed, next year.
Yeah, completely agree. So we've been operating since 2014, when we started off just taking our cameras to literally just any race course we could attend. We've done Cheltenham races over a number of years, completely amateur. And then we started taking our camera to a few point-to-point tracks, such as Tabley. We also went to Bangor. Those are our main two local tracks. Tabley is in Cheshire, just outside Knutsford. And Bangor-on-Dee is only 10-15 minutes away from us, so really ideal location for us. And we realised that there was obviously a lot of interest in our photographs, and it was something we'd like to pursue. And since then, we've gone from strength to strength. We've had our successes, such as photographing at Cheltenham many times. We've also had some fantastic success, such as being able to do last year's Arc, as Thomas said. But we've also had, and again, as Thomas said, we've had our issues and our troubles, and one of them is the RCA national accreditation that we're so desperately aspiring to achieve, as well as the Cheltenham Festival. We'll be again watching from the sidelines this year, wishing we were there, but hopefully next year that opportunity will come.
Well, I do hope that will happen for you both. And if anyone needs any pictures and photography done, then do hit these guys up. Two very capable photographers and also two cracking lads too. Right, so I'm going to kick things off with the Supreme Novices Hurdle, the first race on the first day of the festival. And the market goes this way. Constitution Hill is currently 7-4 favourite on Bet365 anyhow. So Gerhard's currently 2-1. Whether or not he goes here or the Ballymore still remains to be seen. Willie Mullins at the moment is like a puppet master with the exchanges at the moment. Dice Up Dynamo 11-4, John Bond 7-2, Kill Crew at 6-1, Mighty Potter 10-1, and it's 12-1 bar the rest. I think the best starting place to go to is John Bond for you both. When he went through the sales ring, you were both there. So before we actually delve a little bit deeper into his performances on the track, what was he? What were your first impressions of him when he went through that sales ring that day for that massive amount of money?
Well, there was just this aura about him. He didn't even need to do anything, and you just knew he was good. He had this. Again, this is going to be something, but he had a joie de vivre about him. Certain horses at the sales, we've done a fair few of them, you know, we've been Goffs and Tattersalls and Yorton plenty of times where he was sold. And he was just imperious. And he had this sort of twinkle that this was a bit different, this horse, bit more than your usual. And it showed because the bids kept coming in, and he eventually reached £570,000, which was the record for a horse that was selling through the bloodstock. And somebody in this conversation, no matter where he is, managed to get the photo, which was him looking at his price.
Yep, sure did. One of my favourite photographs I've ever taken, to be honest. I'd actually noticed him looking at his price whenever he was going round the ring. He was just having a quick little look at the board to see, oh yeah, fetch that much, am I? Okay, that's Envoy Allen's price beat. Okay, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. I've beaten his price. And it just kept going on and on. There was a bidding war between these two people. There was a guy on the phone who it turned out was bidding for JP McManus. And I forget who the other agent was, but you know, when you're passing £500,000 for a horse, you're there thinking, okay, this is
audible gasp.
it's pretty big money being passed around now. But as Thomas just said, there was, you know, a reason for it. He'd obviously hosed up in his point to point. Obviously, being the full brother of Douvan has its, I guess you'd say, advantages. It also has its disadvantages. But since then, he's gone, I think, from strength to strength. And I know there's a fair few people who have doubted what he's beaten. There's a few saying that there's more appealing and more attractive candidates. But I'm gonna start the ball rolling by just saying he's done nothing wrong. And I think he actually represents a lot of value. If you're looking for value in this race, I think John Bon, yes, he's hovering around the 7-2 mark, which is perilously close if you're going for a win only. But I think he does represent some value because I'm going to say it right early, getting in straight away. I think Constitution Hill is far too short at 7-4. He doesn't represent value. And I'll be totally honest, I don't actually think his form stacks up that well, which I know, Luca, you're probably going to look at me and think, what?
I will come to Constitution Hill in a minute, but we'll talk about John Bon's form. He won a bumper last season, then went to Newbury again for his first appearance over hurdles, where he beat Good Risk at All, who's in the Coral Cup. Looks to be a handicap good thing. He was very good at Ascot, and we're going to talk about him later on. John Bon went to the Kennel Gate since then at Ascot and was very impressive. And you've looked down the field that day, a certain I Like to Move It was well beaten that day. And he's actually turned out to be quite a nice handicap hurdler. He won at Cheltenham and was just touched off in the Betfair Hurdle too by Glory and Fortune, who is on course for the champion hurdle. But the small little blip in the road came at Haydock last time out where, if I'm 100% honest, I watched that race. And for me, it was like somebody that's got a tiny little pin and just popped the bubble. And I explain why, because he was very workmanlike. I know people might think that a good horse can win regardless. That's fair enough. But I wasn't impressed with the run. And I just think if we're going to compare him to Constitution Hill, who we'll talk about in more detail, I just think Constitution Hill has got that slight edge and a bit more of the X factor about him compared to John Bon, who I want to be top class, but I just don't think he's quite there. I think he's a good horse, but I just don't think he's at the top level.
No, sorry. I'm just thinking, who was Constitution Hill beaten?
Well,
like you have to sit there and balance this one out. With a horse coming into the Supreme with the level of form and whatnot, there are going to be some people who think, what exactly has he beaten? A lot of people were saying the same thing after Shishkin had won the Sydney Banks at Huntingdon 2 years ago. And I was a very privileged individual to be photographing there on there, and again created a hell of a stir when he went and did that one. Few people around there were still saying, what exactly has he beaten? But they were soon proven wrong at Cheltenham. And I'd rather him have a race now, John Bon, where he would tough it out. Because I'd rather him tough it out before the Supreme rather than have to fight in a Supreme and find he hasn't got anything. I'd rather him have a race where he has to knuckle down and go and win it so he learns from it. I just think overall John Bon has got the star quality needed to win a Supreme. And because he's a winning 3 mile pointer, he won't be tapped for stamina.
I think one thing just leading on to that is, I know, Luca, you've picked up on it, he was very workmanlike, but I think John Bon, for me, he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, yes, okay, he wasn't as visually impressive as Constitution Hill was at the Tolworth, but he's got the job done. He's beat a very good horse, again, that Constitution Hill's beat. It's Mai Tai. I am right in saying that, Mai Tai.
Yes, Mai Tai is correct, yeah.
Yeah. But again, going on to Constitution Hill, the form, I don't think stacks up, because in the same race at Tolworth that Constitution Hill obviously won, you had a horse, and you know what? His name has absolutely escaped me. Same connections as Brave Man's Game, Paul Nichols trained. I'm really sorry. Mr. Glass, that's him. Mr. Glass has just done, I mean, I don't want to say anything negative, but for me, if he was in the Tolworth Hurdle, he should have won the race at Wincanton he was at recently. and he just didn't. And he went up against a horse called Sizable Sam, who supposedly is a novice chaser or into a chaser for next season. And Sizable Sam won the race. Now, for me, that was a race that Mr. Glass probably should have come either first or second in. So I think it's safe to say he's probably disappointed. But that also then does knock the form for Constitution Hill, and just saying just how visually impressive was he if the form behind is just a little bit on the shaky side. And I just don't see it with John Bond. Yes, he's beat an absolute, he's done what he's had to do rather. But I just think I've been impressive, and I think he just, for me as well, if I was having a bet on the race, he'd be my pick just because of the value. A few of the others I know we'll be looking at, but there's just so many question marks as well. And I'd like to put forward as well that Constitution Hill, when he beat Mai Tai, he was actually getting weight from Mai Tai, whereas John Bond was giving, and he still beat Mai Tai on absolutely terrible ground. They were finishing legless at Haydock the last day. So again, this is just where I think to myself, yes, Constitution Hill was impressive on sort of the same ground, but no, I'm in the John Bond camp. I'd like to think so, wearing green. I know Tom's wearing white, but he's definitely not in a Constitution Hill camp.
Well, you put up a very valid point there, but sticking with the form of Constitution Hill, obviously from my point of view, it's a slight concern. Jatoile, who was second that day, I fancied for the Betfair Hurdle, he came last. Shall we have one more since it's been beaten at Kempton 2 weeks ago in the Dovecote as well, when he was well back to win that race, and he got beat by a very smart Chris Gordon horse.
Yeah.
But for me, why I think he's favourite is just the sheer manner of what he's done on that soft ground in that Tolworth to accelerate away from his rivals so well. You're not an ordinary horse to do that. He's got a wonderful engine. His jumping, in my opinion, is pretty sound as well. And I just think if it turns into a bit of a sprint, which I think it will, his engine's going to take him there. And I think he's going to be bang there, turning for home.
Again, the only thing I would... Sorry, Tom. Go on.
Here's a question. You mentioned about the state of the ground. Remember when Yorkhill won the Tolworth? Where did he end up? What is now the Ballymore? And he won that very nicely. Do you think maybe that he might be a little bit tapped for toe, maybe?
I don't think he will. I think he's got. I said before. I think he's got gears. I think he's got gears. And Nicky obviously agrees to run him here. So it's down to the connections. But I don't think he will be caught tap for toe here. I think he can definitely lay up with the light. I personally think the same questions for John Bond there as well. And I know Nicky sees them as both 2.5 milers in time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, say, next season and beyond, really.
I think just looking at the other horses, I mean, we've obviously focused on John Bond and Constitution Hill quite a fair bit, and we've all made our cases. Just looking at a few of the other horses, if we're talking about form, then Desart Dynamo, I think, does that horse have more questions to answer? Because obviously done the business a couple of times over in Ireland, but the horse that was second on his maiden win, if you check that form is bare. Absolutely nothing in it at all. And it's quite surprising for me, because normally going into the Cheltenham Festival with an Irish horse, your eye is very much leaning towards that angle. I mean, look at the horses that have won the race in previous years: Duvan, Vautour, even the likes of Champagne Fever as well, and Classical Dream, to name but a few. I mean, Appreciate It as well last year. But this year, I just don't think there's that much of an angle. I think another Irish horse I could not bet on is Kilcruit. I think what the promise he showed last season, he just hasn't brought it forward at all. I think we were all shocked when he didn't win his maiden hurdle. We were all like, hey, what? Kilcruit's been beaten. So it was like, okay, bubble well and truly burst. I think I Like to Move It is a very likable sort, and he would do very well to win this. But I think he's a very attractive price if 16 horses run, which, do you think 16 horses are likely in the Supreme?
No.
Well, if you can find
another point. Just sorry to interrupt there, but you've not mentioned one horse, and I think potentially might have a good one.
Is it by any chance Yes.
You see, I saw him in the sales as well, and he was, I thought potentially a good sort, but apart from his run at Leopardstown, in which he wasn't right, clearly, he's done nothing wrong. He could very easily run into a place. The Supreme is looking like an absolute cracker, and there's going to be people with paper all over the walls, videotapes, looking up on websites, trying to find that one bit of form, and we're all concentrating on horses that are top of the market, and you watch, there's another LeBake in there.
I mean, I completely agree, but just to wrap things up, we'll go for a couple more. Where are we at with, there's two here I'm going to bring up here. Where are we at with Mighty Potter? He's a couple of people on social media's so-called value here. He's 10-1. I personally can't see it myself, but people are making a fair case for him here. And also, probably the biggest conundrum in this race at the moment is Sir Gerhard. Where's he going to end up? Is it Ballymore or Supreme? The exchange have been yo-yoing for the entire week. Does he have the gears for a Supreme?
No. I'm going to say that for certain, because if you actually look at the last year, the champion bumper, Kilcruit's coming, doesn't quite get there. But Sir Gerhard was running on empty. And as a result, my only concern would be if they went some clip in the Supreme, would he be tapped for pace? Personally, I think he would be. I think he would be much better off going in the Ballymore. And in the Ballymore, there's one horse, which I know Tom is going to talk about later, so I will leave that to him. But I would think that that horse would go better in the Albert Bartlett if Sir Gerhard was in the Ballymore. Well, mainly because I just think he's going to be running on empty, and I don't know. He's not representing much value for me again. But again, on Mighty Potter, I'll be totally honest with you. He's rather, he's not really lit up on my radar at all. There's definitely stronger pieces of form. I actually think, like I said, I like to move it. I think he's much better value. We know how good horses are when they run in the Betfair hurdle going the Supreme. My 10 to yours won that, eventually came second. Okay, the blip last year was Soaring Glory, but, we all know about Soaring Glory. He doesn't like small fields. He loves the hustle and bustle.
Kalashnikov too, a couple of years ago.
Again, yeah.
On the line.
Yeah, I bet that made a fair few people upset and like, oh.
Okay, so we'll wrap this one up. Sorry, go on, carry on, Jack.
I'll say this one. If you're backing Sir Gerhard for anything, wait until the declarations, because a lot like the handicaps, wait till the declarations to stake your money on. He might be lower in the price, but just don't. Because if you choose one, naturally, sod's law, there'll be another race. Just wait until they're declared.
Well, I think
declared
some are going on run a no bet at the moment as well. So you're not.
If they declare for both, panic.
I've never been a big fan of Sir Gerhard's jumping on the whole either. I thought last time out he sort of paddled his way through the last, and I'm just thinking a Supreme that could definitely cost you. But we'll run through our picks for this. I'm boring. I'm going to go Constitution Hill here, and I'll probably lick my wounds at 135 on that Tuesday if he gets turned over. And I believe you two are firmly in the JP camp here with John Bomb. Am I correct?
I'll cry if John Bon loses.
I will go vegan for a week. I will go vegan for a week if he gets beat.
Are you that sure? You're seriously going to go vegan for a week?
I am. Anyone who knows me and Jack knows how much we love our food, and we do pride ourselves on not being fussy eaters. But if it is that John Bon gets beat, I will take a vegan diet for a week as punishment for my sins.
That's a bold statement. But I personally think it's not the end of the line for both of them. Should they both get beat? I think they both got bright futures. Anyhow, we're going to kick into the Arkle now. On paper, this looks. I'm not going to say it's a one-horse race because the Arkle's thrown up some unique results in the past. We look at Western Warhorse a couple of years ago. Where the hell did he come from? Basically, let's be honest.
I still don't know. I still have no idea. I watched that race over and over again, and I think Western Warhorse. Mind blown.
Kicking into the betting here, Edwardstone is 15-8 favourite, Blue Lord 132nd favourite, Riviera de Tel 7-2, St Sam 6-1, Course Sublime 10-1, and we've got 12-1 bigger the rest here. We're going to kick things off with Edwardstone. He brings by far and away the best form into this race, multiple Grade 2 winner, and of course a Grade 1 winner at Sandown a couple of starts ago. Alan King, I don't think, has had a festival winner now since 2015, which, if you're a stats man, it could be a slight concern. But to me, on paper here, we're going to go off on paper alone, his form's just absolutely rock solid. And if I'm honest, I can't see him getting beaten here.
Yeah, I think he's done, apart from being brought down at Warwick at the 4th last on his chasing debut, which actually, when you look at it, those horses going in for pleasure brings him down. Edwardstone is obviously in the race. That's quite a hot little novice chase, which you think to yourself in November, like, ooh, this is one to whet the appetite. But, he is the likely winner. I was impressed with him at Warwick when he won the Kingmaker. I think it was quite bold going for the Kingmaker after he'd won a Grade 1. But he absolutely showed that it was not a hindrance. So for me, yeah, he probably is the likely winner. Blue Lord, he's won, but I've not been that convinced by him. He doesn't come into the race as a very typical Arkle horse. I mean, I'm actually going to talk about Riviere d'Etel, because Riviere d'Etel is potentially the fly in the ointment, just the same as Put the Kettle On was a couple of seasons ago in the Arkle. Mainly because I think she was hugely unlucky not to beat Blue Lord the last day at Leopardstown. And okay, she put in an absolutely shocking jump at the last, landed on top of the fence rather than actually going clear over it. But then Blue Lord's come across her. She's had to switch, and she's only gone down by a diminishing half length. So if she's doing all the best work at the end, I think she could be the main threat to Edwardstone.
And I would go and say Edwardstone might as well win it. I'm going to say this, he represents great form. Blue Lord might go and win it for the Irish Snatcher, maybe Jack's pick there, but I'm going to go for a 16-1 outsider who's done absolutely nothing wrong. Ciel de Niège. He's a better chaser than hurdler. I mean, he was second in a Betfair a couple of years ago, but he's won between 2 miles and 2 mile 4, winning all of his novice chases. I believe one of them was graded. If you're looking for an outsider, he represents some great value. And he also has stamina, which means, again, if it turns into a fight, which one cracks first, it won't be him.
In terms of looking at bigger value, I went for a slightly bigger one. Warlord, I think, is a big price. He's 33-1 at the moment. And I just think, personally, if the race sort of falls apart and the top two, if it falls apart, really, I think he can pick up the pieces. He's a progressive young horse. Okay, he was absolutely slammed at Sandown before Christmas in that Grade 1 by Edwardstone by 16 lengths. So I'm not trying to suggest that he's going to beat Edwardstone, but he was very brave and gutsy at Lingfield last time out, and he beat Queen of Hearts. She's come out since and been smashed out of sight at Exeter, which is a slight concern. Well, I just think maybe at a big price he could run a big race, basically. Arkle's so weak. I think it's not a strong Arkle at all. And I just think if it's to fall apart, then anything can pick up the pieces, in my opinion.
Again, absolutely. I think for me, it has to be, I'm going to go Riviere d'Etel. I'm going to nail my mast, I'm going to nail my colours to the mast and say Riviere d'Etel cause an upset.
That's fair enough. I'm going to go with Warlord at a big price. And Tom, you're going with?
Ciel de Niège at 16-1. I just think the price they're at, you're looking at some of these, you're looking for a bit of value, not because of greed or anything. You just don't want to be throwing your money on the short price favourite and then bragging to your mates in the pub and they're all like, well, get the drinks in. Like, oh, sorry, I didn't win that much. You want to be able to say you've had a nice bit of form, you've had a great day, but also picking a winner would be quite nice.
Lovely. Okay, we're moving to
I'm loving the different colours going on, Tom. Have you got the TV on or something? Because the colours are flashing up. It's blue, then red, then green.
What's he watching?
I like one of them Super Saiyans on the Dragon Ball, multicolours. But it's off now anyway.
Let's hope that's PG content you're watching on that screen. Right.
Well, there is actually some very rated content on there. Desert Orchid was an advert for him on there. Legend of the sport.
Definitely. Right, we're going to move into the Ultima now. Before we actually touch on this, could this be a dream start for Great Britain? Could we be 3-0 up before we go into after the Ultima, basically? Could this be the sensational start we needed after a terrible Cheltenham last year? Could we be 3-0 up after the Ultima?
Now, No, because there's one horse I'm thinking shouldn't be, if he gets in this race, he shouldn't be in it. He should be in the blasted National Hunt Chase, and I can't understand why they're in this one.
Right, we're going to run for the market and for the Ultima. Tom, you can't keep me waiting too much. I want to hear this. Okay, Death Duty at the moment is currently 6-1 favourite. Apparently, Gordon Elliott's best handicapped horse of the entire week, according to many people. I can't see it myself, but hey ho, it is what it is. Does he know? 7-1. The young novice coming into this into a handicap 7-1. Fleur 9-1. We've got Fury Road in this too. Imperial Alcazar 4. Fergal O'Brien at 10s. Noble Yates on course for the National. This could be his trial at 10-1 for the Sam Wadey Cohen. Frontal Assault 10-1. Grand Paradise 10-1. The Shunter, last year's 100 grand bonus winner 10-1. Fantastic Ass 11-1. It's 12-1 bar those. We'll start with Does He Know first of all. We'll open up with him, a young novice who's taken that big step now up into handicap company and a big handicap chase at Cheltenham. Where are you both at with him? I think he could have a good chance here, but it's a handicap for the first time, a Cheltenham handicap too. Just where are you both thinking with him?
I think he's probably going to. I mean, he won the Reynolds Town in good style, very good style. But I would think that more puts him in the picture for the Brown Advisory or maybe even the National Hunt Chase. I just think, even though we might be well handicapped, will he take the test? Because it's a hustle and bustle. It's a big, massive betting contest as well. And you need a horse that likes and appreciates a big field, but can also concentrate on the job. You know, years ago, we had the Druid's nephew who was looking for the Grand National, and he absolutely loved it round there. He was only unlucky in the National, but I just keep thinking that maybe Does He Know won't appreciate the big field that we're going to get. He might find one or two a bit in there. He might get a bit claustrophobic and put his jumping under pressure, you know. I mean, I would like to see something for a local yard. You mean, you've mentioned Imperial Alcazar as well for the great Fergal O'Brien team, as well as Does He Know is only a couple of miles, literally is across the road at Kim Bailey's. But I just think maybe not with him.
Oh, Luca, why did you have to mention the two horses that I've looked at for this race? It's like you've read my mind. Nothing would make me happier. Nothing would make me happier all week, really, than seeing. Well, there's a few things that made me happy all week, to be honest. But one of the things I'd love to see is Fergal O'Brien get a Cheltenham winner, and I think Imperial Alcazar is probably going to be his best chance of that. Now, I know he's entered in the Paddy Power Plate, I think, as well, later in the week, Imperial Alcazar. But I think he represents a lot of value. He's very lightly raced this season. He won well at Cheltenham on Festival Trials Day. And he's got a very nice weight, and the £8 rise, I think, whereas some people might think it's hefty, I think actually that might not be enough, because he really did impress me. But I'm actually really sweet on Does He Know, mainly because Kim Bailey won the, I'd like to think, the version of this at Aintree with Happy Go Lucky on Grand National Day last year. And Happy Go Lucky was a very close second in this race. I know he's gone close in the past with Vindication, but I think Does He Know is going to be the horse that seals the deal for him in this race, mainly because he's only gone up £5 for his win in the Reynolds Town, which I was actually really taken with, because I'll be totally honest with you, I thought he was struggling coming up the side towards home. But then he's pulled well clear, stayed on the best. And yes, as Tom said, he might go for something like the Brown Advisory. But for me, I think this is the race is set up for him. He's a very nice weight. And although he hasn't run in that many big handicaps, I think, you know, he's a Kim Bailey horse who loves a big handicap. He's pretty good on all sorts of ground. And you know he's got stamina to boot after his Reynolds Town win. So he'd be my pick for the race, and I probably won't say anything too much more on that, other than I know Fantastic Ass is fancied as well. But like I say, Does He Know has absolutely jumped out at me for this, so that's my selection.
Sticking with Fantastic Ass, he's my pick for this, and I've been looking for his form, and I just think he's been mixing it in some very hot novice contests this season. He's rubbed shoulders with 3 under through 5 at Doncaster in December. He looks to be a very smart horse for the future in terms of national races and staying chases. I think he could be a very, very smart horse. I think he's on course for the National Hunt Chase, is he, or is he going to go elsewhere this week, 3 under through 5, just quickly before we carry on?
I think he's going for the National Hunt.
Yeah, I think so.
At least I hope he's going for the National Hunt.
And also Fantastic Ass rubbed shoulders with Lahon Pressé, who I think is definitely going to go into, I think it's a Brown Advisory. I think he's going to take on Galopin des Champs, and I think it's Bob Oliver too. And I think he's got a very good chance in that. I think a lot of people are underestimating him. I think he's a serious horse, and we'll talk about him later on. But the Glancing Queen was 10 lengths second behind him that day with Fantastic Ass in third. That's not bad form at all. And I think Nigel Twiston-Davies has been quite sweet on his chances here. And he's about 12 to 14 to 1 at the moment. And I just think with that rock solid form, he's got the Cheltenham before too. I think he's got a good chance. I did think Come On Teddy had a chance too, but I don't think he's going to get in this. And I think he's going to go to the Kim Muir. So he'd be one I'd be wanting to watch for the Kim Muir. But a talking point here, I'm going to throw to you both. Frodon's in this at the moment, off top weight of 11-12. If he were to get in this and to win it, that's by far and away got to be one of his career best achievements by far, surely, off top weight in this.
100%.
Say it is his career best because he's won a Down Royal, but he's attempting to do a Denman, lump around loads of weight and win a big Stellar Prize handicap. And I must admit, I love the horse. I think he's just been an absolute stalwart for National Hunt racing, but I have got my colours nailed to a different mast, unfortunately.
Reveal, please.
I've actually gone for Fury Road at 12 to 1.
The smug look suggests you've got a little plot job going on here, Tom.
Well, I can't work out why he's 12 to 1.
Explain why for us then.
Well, Gordon Elliott has said that he's going here, more likely than anything else, but I just wish they would put him in the National Hunt Chase because he's in that. He beat Run Wild Fred, one of the fancied horses for that one, by over 8 lengths in a Grade 1. Why on earth is he in this handicap? I think he's very underrated by the handicapper, and he's better than this race. And if he handles a hustle and bustle, he's going to take a hell of a lot of beating because he wasn't stopping in his Grade 1. I think it was around Leopardstown. If someone out there knows it wasn't and it was another course, then please tell me any differently. But he wasn't stopping, and he beat one of the favourites for a race over further. And I'm sat there thinking, he's 12 to 1. Why?
Yes, it was Leopardstown. You are correct there, yeah. As for the rest of the field goes, we've got a couple of national contenders in here, I think. Noble Yates is on course for national. He's been bought by the Whaley Cohens, who like to have a national runner. Sam's on board here. Fortescue, I think, is either going to go here or the national. He was the winner of Ascot last time. He beat Fiddler on the Roof too. I think it's got a cracking chance in that. As far as I can really suggest here, I'm sticking with Fantastic Ass. What do you think about Our Power? He's a horse who ran okay in the Coral Trophy at Kempton, and again, I'm hearing slight sort of murmurings of people thinking he could come in here with a good chance. He's not. I think he's currently number 63 here, so he's not guaranteed to get in just yet. I don't think.
I think he's, he was very, very good to come third that day at Kempton that you mentioned. But I think you're right. Number 63 going into handicap when the safety factor is only 26. Obviously, he's got to have over half the field come out in the race, so it's a little bit of an ask. He's not without a chance, but I think there's just stronger candidates. Like I've said, does he know? What I will say is, obviously you mentioned Noble Yates, bought by Robert Whaley Cohen. Obviously, we've mentioned we do a lot of point-to-pointing. I think Sam Whaley Cohen, week in, week out in the pointing sphere, is showing he hasn't lost any of it. I mean, we've been to Larkhill twice this season. Guess what? Sam Whaley Cohen's been on the winners board at Larkhill. So he's still a very, very, very competent jockey. And I think he goes in with a squeak. But yeah, like I said, I've nailed my colours too. Does he know? And I think he's going to prove very difficult to beat. So that's my selection.
Tom, your selection, please, at Fury Road.
Fury Road, 12 to 1 last time I checked.
And I'm with Fantastic Ass. But before we leave this race and move on to the Champion Hurdle, Lost in translations at 20-1 in this race. He was a former Gold Cup third. He's had his issues and niggles before. A handicap might benefit him here. It might be a bit slow for him, which might help. For me, he's too much of a risk to be backing in it's a handicap, yes, but he's too much of a risk for me.
Agreed.
I love the horse. I love Lost in Translation. I think he's an absolutely gorgeous horse, very talented, but there's something up with him at the minute. He's not the horse he has been. I'm sure the excuse me. I'm sure the Tizzards will find out what's up with him, but I think this year it might just be see where he can pick up some prize money, unfortunately, with him.
Okay, that's fair enough. Right, moving into the champion hurdle. I'm not going to go through the betting too much here. Honeysuckle's currently 1-2 favourite. Appreciate it 4-1. The young horse Tia Hooper 8, Epatante 2 years ago, the former champion 12, Adagio 20-1, Zana here 20-1, Tommy's Oscars 28, and it's 50-1 bar those. Without being too blunt, really, this should be Honeysuckle's lap of honour to confirm what a superstar mare she is, shouldn't it?
Well, the only thing with this is the fly in the ointment is supposedly Tia Hooper, but I'll be totally honest here. I don't know why.
I agree.
I don't know why. I mean, there's probably people screaming at this right now, going, "What on earth are you talking about? No wonder you're a photographer and not a tipster." But there's just nothing that I've seen that would make me an even Honeysuckle connections even quiver. I think the price is too short given what they've done. I don't really think they've beaten an awful lot. If they're as good as they think that these people who are suggesting that he's, something special, I think they would have been in better races. And I'm not sure that we've seen anything to scare Honeysuckle. What I will say is Honeysuckle wins it, but I will actually say that a 20-1 Zana here represents a heck of a lot of value. Now, I know you'll disagree with me, Luca, because I know exactly who you're going to say, so I'm going to leave it for yourself to tell everyone. But I just think that, yes, indeed. But Zana here, out of all of the races over 2 miles in Ireland, I think they've done the best on a mean level. And it's just, I mean, it's hard to ignore the fact the champion hurdle this year looks absolutely dross. It's not, it doesn't excite me as much as it should. I mean, you've even got the likes of Epatante in there, former champion hurdler, but still not getting the juices flowing. As you say, it should just be a lap of honour. So I'm not going to say too much more, except that Honeysuckle wins it and Zana here gets each way.
Tom, your opinions, please, on this. Do you agree with myself and Jack that there's not too much here? Is there one for you, a little bit of value here, but realistically, it should be Honeysuckle's crowning glory again?
I think that Honeysuckle is just get ready to name a bar at Cheltenham after her. I think she's going to absolutely hose up again if she comes in the same form. Got that devastating turn of speed from 2 out. It's just a case of how far will she win it. Tiupu, each way value, but be honest with you, 100-1, my mate Motsy, he's in there, represents some nice form. If you've already got to the point where you're a bit weak at the knees already, stick a couple of quid on.
I think my mate Moz is actually bigger than that, Tom. I think he's 250, I think, from what I can see on here, on the Racing Post app on the Bet365. I don't know how accurate that is, but I think he is. But my opinion is this. Honeysuckle's been superb throughout the whole of her career. She should win this really well. Before I delve into my pick, where are we at with Appreciator? He's coming into this off the back of no preparation. Last year's devastating Supreme winner. I can't work it out, really. If he's good enough, he could give Honeysuckle something to think about. I don't think he can beat her, but I definitely think he can give her a race. But my problem with him is, how fit will he be? We've seen Mullins do this before with Penhill at Cheltenham, Classical Dream at Punchestown, so he can do this. Where are you both at with Appreciator?
My concern, as Tom says, I can't take him only because my concern is, this is a horse that was supposedly going novice chasing this season. And for one reason or other, maybe a niggling little injury or two, they weren't ready for their engagements in December. And then it was almost like it was a bit of an afterthought to keep them over hurdles. Again, they're supreme, although on the face of it, they won it absolutely fantastically. Again, you have to look at the form behind For me, yeah, if he does it, it's one of the greatest training performances we've seen in a long time. But right now, no. And also, what price is he, Luca? Just
Around the
clarify
4-to-1 mark for this.
that is like eye-wateringly tight. I mean, if you're having an each way on the race, that is very close. I mean, is it a fifth of the odds, a quarter of the odds? What are we looking at?
It is each way a fifth. 1, 2, 3.
Couldn't take it. Could not take it. Not at all. I'll stick with my picks: Honeysuckle to win and Zana here each way.
Okay, right. My each way pick in this is a horse who, if you'd have told me this at the start of the season when he got beaten a conditional jockey's handicap hurdle at Wetherby, I'm sure the connections and myself will have all laughed. But he's been the most success story of the entire season. A market rise up the handicap ranks, and it's Tommy's Oscar. This season, in my opinion, has been a meteoric rise. A Hogmanay hurdle, 2 Class 2 hurdles, and most recently a champion hurdle trial. Probably wasn't the strongest in the world, but he done it very, very well. And what I like about him is he's a very neat jumper, a very strong traveller. If a good clip's insured here, he can get into a lovely rhythm. I think he could definitely pick up a place here. Hamilton's have been in flying form throughout the entirety of the season. Nutswell was at Kelso and won very nicely at the weekend. A big shock there as well. But I just think if he were to win this, it'd be a huge achievement. And I just think it'd be the best story of the week. I think he's a cracking each way bet in this. I really, really do.
Excellent. I couldn't agree more with you. He was. Obviously, it wasn't the strongest champion trial at Haydock, but you know what? When he's won that, why not go for it? Why not? And like you say, meteoric rise, been an absolute superstar this season since his setback, shall we say, at Wetherby. But yeah, I think he does represent some value. And with this race, you never know. That's the thing. You never know. Look at Espoir Dallin a few years ago. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he was unfancied, but he wasn't fancied the likes of Bouvedere. Next thing, Bouvedere's unseated the rider, fallen, forgotten what happened, but let's just say the jockey was no longer part with the horse.
He fell, I
think he fell. Yes, he did. He clipped the top. But then the race is just completely and utterly, the complexions change. It's like, right, the favourite's out. What's going to happen now? So you never know. Let's just say for one reason that Honeysuckle decides she doesn't want to start for whatever reason. The race has been thrown wide open then.
Definitely. Okay, we're going to move on now into the National Hunt Chase. We're going to go into there. I've not got too much of an opinion on this, but I know Runwell Fred's in this. He's in this race. Statler's the favourite for this as well. Have we got much of an opinion on this, guys? I can't say I have really, to be honest. But have any of you got an opinion on this race?
I've got one opinion: is Fury Road should be in it.
He's currently 5 to 2 second favourite. Oh no, sorry, he's wrong one. He's currently 8 to 1 Fury Road for this. I was looking at Runwell Fred.
He beat one of the favourites who I'm actually going for is Runwell Fred. I'm going in the National Hunt Chase. I just think he's one of the best horses in there. Statler is tipped to be a very good one and could do a Galvin, same connections, but I just think Runwell Fred represents some very good form. I mean, the only one I would say is if 300-3-5 goes for that race rather than the Brown Advisory, I think he could give the Irish something to really fear, because the performance of his Hampton win was excellent. And that race has a very good history of producing a great staying chaser. OK Corral's won it, and he's won a Sky Bet Chase. And yeah, he's this race and the one at yeah, it's just it produces a great staying chaser. You get really good horses that are potentially out of the top draw in this race, and I think Runwell Fred is potentially out top draw if he manages it, but 300-5 would do very well if the connections decide to go for them. So please, McNeil family, go for the National Hunt Chase, please.
Okay, right. Moving into day 2 now, we're going to kick things off with the Ballymore. This is a race where...
I hope not. I haven't said my bet for the National Hunt Chase yet.
Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry, Jack. We jumped the gun a bit.
It doesn't matter anyway. Move on.
To tell you the truth, I think just as a few notes, Brayside beat the Midlands National Fourth at Cork in October. However, was was not that good in the Thyestes before. The grade 2 at Navan was too much. I think he ran an absolute shocker in the Thyestes, if I remember. Your horse you mentioned, Fantastic Ass, Luca. Great win at Lingfield, like you mentioned. I actually think because he showed he will relish a staying trip, I think he should run him in this and not the Ultimate. But
Hope he
you know,
doesn't.
that's about to say. You bet you hope he doesn't. A couple of other interesting horses. Obviously, you mentioned Statler. I'm not sure he will relish this. Whereas I was absolutely certain that Galvin would relish this test. I don't get the same vibes from Statler for some reason. I'm just not certain on him. Pat's Fancy is interesting for Rebecca Curtis. The forms worked out really well. He beat Jericho Rock, who was then second in the Classic Chase. He beat him at Chepstow, I think it was, and was then behind Brave Man's Game at Newbury.
Yep.
So obviously they do like a trip. Chepstow, as we all know, is not the easiest track to run on if you don't have stamina. But the horse I like is the McNeil family's 3 under through 5. I was really taken by his win in Hampton. I think if he goes in this race, he really does give the Irish something to think about. I think it'll be redemption as well for the connections, because they had Ascaria 10 in this race last year and he got beat. So, and I'm certainly not the only person to wish that he'd be going in this race rather than the Brown Advisory. I know there's a very big fan out there. We all know Katie Clements is a huge McNeil family fan. So I bet she'll be wishing for their silks to be in the winner's enclosure as well at some point in the week. But that'll be my thoughts on it, 3 under through 5. So now we can move on to the Ballymore.
We can now move to day 2 now without Jack interrupting me about his bet. So, okay, moving into the Ballymore now. So Go Hard tops the market at 11 to 8. Dice Up Dynamo 9 to 4. We've got a few of the Supreme in here at the moment, but I can guarantee when decks are out, they'll obviously come out of the betting. We'll talk about the ones who are actually not in the Supreme but are in this. Ginto's at 4 to 1. I think it's either Ginto or Ginto. I'm going to go with Ginto. Journey with Me 4 to 1. Manila Kakuna in here as well. I get confused with both Kruna and Kakuna because they're both in novice races at the Cheltenham Festival. Stage Star 6 to 1. Kilcruit 10 to 1, but he might go Supreme. Stank Man 10 to 1. Walking on Air 10 to 1. Hollow Games and 3 Stripe Life are both 12 to 1, and it's 14 to 1 bar those. I'll start with Stage Star first. I was impressed with him in the Challow Hurdle at Newbury just after Christmas. I thought it was a very taken performance. I can't say I'd be too hard. I can't say really that he'd be my pick for this. I haven't got a strong opinion on this again, really. But for me, it's going to take a significant step up for him to win this, and I'm just not sure he's quite got that with it in him, really.
I'll agree with you there. I think it's the fact that Owners Group have got another good contender for a race. That's always going to be a plus, especially for the syndicate that they are. You know, the chance you've got to have a festival runner, that's just a superb option and a superb experience. But I think you need to step up more to be with a chance of winning with this. You've obviously got Ginto, who won the Laws of Nace by 4 1/4 lengths and is potentially out of the top draw. May well turn out to be the Bob Ollinger of this year for that one. Might breeze everyone away. But my actual pick all depends on where Sir Gerhard is running and whether or not this lad goes into the Albert Bartlett. And he's another horse that I'm lucky enough to say that as a photographer, I've been able to see at the sales and photograph. And he is also the joint record holder with John Bon. It is, of course, Classic Getaway. He is an absolute monster in the making. He's a staying 3-mile chaser in the making. And I think, how on earth is he 16 to 1 now? Because
I'll tell you why he's 16 to 1. Because he didn't do that well on his debut and he's done nothing since.
He needed his run first time out and he's won the race nicely on the second time out. He goes into the race as an unknown quantity, but I think he's a staying chaser in the making. You don't want to wreck him this time round. So I think if he goes here, he will give the favourite something to really worry about, as all he did in his point was grind it out. And when everyone else was crying enough, he was like, I'm going, goodbye. And yeah, I just think that if he runs here, I will take him at 16 to 1. But just depends if he runs in the Albert Bartlett.
Jack, your opinion, please.
I'm going to be quite brief, to be honest, because I've got, I wouldn't say I've got the most briefest of opinions, but I think Ginto, however you pronounce his name, he's done nothing wrong at all. And actually, I did look, and I saw he was 4 to 1 in some places. He is 4. Oh, right, okay, fair enough. Well, I think that's cracking value. I've been really taken with him, as Tom said. He won the Lawn as an ace. He won that very nicely. Again, he's sort of the standout option. So Gerhard, I hope he runs in this rather than the Supreme. I think this is a better test for him. Again, you've got the likes of my mate Moxie, 25 to 1. Each way shout, should he skip the Supreme, the champion hurdle? But I'm just going to say that it's hopefully going to be Ginto's race. And that's about as much as I'll say on it.
Yes, to be fair, it's more of a watching brief for me. And we'll move now to the Brown Advisory Novices Chase. This looks to be a good race here. I don't think Galopin Des Champs and Bob Bollinger are going to go here. I think they're going to go to the Turners, which then leaves another mouth-watering clash between Brave Man's Game and Ahoy Senor again. It could be the rematch of the Cool So Star, I think it was at Kempton over Christmas. Before we talk about Brave Man's Game, let's focus in on Ahoy Senor. I was at Newbury when he won that Novice Chase before Christmas in November, and I was very impressed. To me, he's very much a horse who's a bit of a rough diamond. He's an out-and-out galloper. He's got all the right attributes, but he's a bit of a... He just needs to polish up on his jumping, I think. And I personally think it was wise to skip the Gold Cup and come here, because people have mentioned him in the same breath as Coney, but for me, Coney, what won him that Gold Cup that year was his ability to jump. He jumped his rivals into submission and galloped them too. Ahoy Senor can gallop his rivals into submission, but he can't jump them into submission, in my opinion. And I just think here, it's much more of I wouldn't say an easier test for him, but I think it'd be a much more better race for him than going to the Gold Cup, where if he makes a mistake or two and he's chasing his tail all the way round, I think here, this is a more suitable race for him. What would you tend to agree, or do you...
I actually think, yeah, it's a more suitable race for him, but I'm going to keep this, again, nice and short. How is Bob Ollinger 11 to 10 for this? I couldn't touch him. But as well as that, Brave Man's Game wins it. Really impressive. Couldn't take him anywhere else.
Tom, are you firmly in the Brave Man's Game camp, or are you a Ahoy Senor fan?
Brave Man's Game is a photographer's dream. Quite frankly, a shape he does, the way he jumps, he's eating fences for breakfast. He would eat the chair and just go, I want some more. He really would. And the one thing that, sells is he can gallop, he can jump. He put that performance at Newbury where he went against some handicappers, gave him lumps of weight and a beating. And that's who I'm going for. But I'm surprised Jack didn't go for Ahoy Senor, because straight after John Bond was in the sales ring, Ahoy Senor was straight after him. Somebody walked past him, didn't they, Jack?
Yes, I certainly did. Did walk past Ahoy Senor. Very good. He's had really good performances at Aintree, especially, and he was very good at Wetherby in the Towton. But I just think he's still got lumps to find with Brave Man's Game. So for me, it's Brave Man's Game for this.
I just personally think if it becomes a battle of the jumping, Brave Man's Game outjumps him, in my opinion. I think personally, later on down the line, Brave Man's Game will make it to a very nice Gold Cup horse. And I'd even be brave enough to say in about a couple of years' time, even possibly a Grand National horse, he's just that good of a jumper. I could see him in a few years' time even going to Aintree and possibly even running quite well there. Ahoy Senor's going to have to jump really well all the way around here. And for me, it's just too much of a risk to take with him, because you're backing him in the hope he's going to have a clear round, when at Wetherby he put in one or two mistakes. He knuckled at the second last. He's got a fantastic engine, as I said before, but I just don't think his jumping will hold up against a superb jumper like Brave Man's Game. So I'm going to be pretty original here and stick with Brave Man's Game here too. Okay, right, we're going to move into the Coral Cup now. A traditional minefield of a handicap here. We've got Stank Man in it at 6 to 1. He's favourite at the moment. Good risk at all. The handicap, good thing from Ascot the last time out, 7 to 1. Langadan looks chucked in for the Martin Pipe. He might be there on the last day of the festival at 8 to 1. Saint Felicien 8 to 1. The Devil's Coachman 8 to 1. Drop the Anchor 9 to 1. Unexpected Party of Dan Skelton's 9 to 1. Campron 10s. Good Time Johnny 10s. Ashdale Bob 10s. And it's 11 to 1 bigger the rest here. I think a good place to start is Good Risk at All. A horse who, prior to running at Ascot, had all the talent in the world. Was seen in behind John Bon, of course, and he's on course for the Supreme. So if he wins the Supreme, I think that's a fantastic form boost. Good Risk at All, I felt at the start of the season, he went to Chepstow in his first hurdling appearance and he jumped terribly. He was very raw, very big and very brash. And it was evidently clear that he had all the talent in the world, but his jumping was just a complete mess. He then went to Warwick and most recently did it again, but finished with an absolute flourish that if he'd have jumped well enough, he would have won. He got beaten by, I think, a short head. But he went to Ascot last time out in a big handicap and it just seemed to all fall into place. And I was quite concerned that a big handicap will have been detrimental to his jumping, when in actual fact, it actually helped his jumping. And he won like a handicap thing should have won. A good thing, handicap, a good thing should have won. And I just think here I think he could easily be a graded horse in a handicap, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would go and say that he represents a lovely prospect, but I'm going to have to take another look at this and make a big, massive judgment. But 3 I like at the minute are the Devil's Coachman, San Felicien, but also Deploy the Getaway. I just think he's hunting around a little bit, a very workable market. I think that horse could be a graded horse in a handicap. So I'm thinking if he can handle it, they're the ones I'm taking a look at. But again, I'll have a look closer to the day to make my choice. But for record purposes, those are my 3 that I'm looking at. Devil's Coachman, San Felicien, Deploy the Getaway.
And Jack, your picks?
Well, having a look at this, I mean, it's a typical minefield, isn't it? It's it's absolute. It's an absolute. This is one of the reasons why I absolutely love this race. I've been to the Cheltenham Festival as a paying punter for, I think we've been 3 times on the Wednesday, the Queen Mother Champion Chase Day, and the Coral Cup is always a race that I look forward to because it's an absolute cavalry charge, and trying to find the winner of it, you can look at all different angles. And, for me, I haven't had much luck in picking the winner, I'll be totally honest. So bear in mind, if people want to listen to me right now, fair enough. Heaven help us, £9 higher than winning this last year. I'm not sure a repeat on the cards. Metier deserves his chance. He's put in some very good handicap performances. Let's not talk about his run the other day. Let's not talk about that. That was just like
more battle bumper.
Yeah, exactly. It was a more battle bumper. But he was very good at Lingfield, so I think he does deserve his chance in this. Another horse that myself and Tom will know is Gary Claremont. He was the Betfair Exchange Trophy 3rd at Ascot. He's a consistent sort who loves a race like this. 25 to 1, 11 stone is quite appealing. And I know that John O'Neill will have panned it out quite nicely. But the horse I'm going to actually select is a very interesting runner who likes the Cheltenham course, the trip. I think will suit him better, and has a nice weight. If he can get a conditional to take a couple more pounds off, that would be ideal. But it's Guard Your Dreams.
Okay.
Very nice horse for Nigel and Sam Twiston-Davies, but I actually really want a conditional to ride him. I'm not sure who the best choice would be for the horse, but if he took a couple of other pounds off, I'd be very, very sweet on his chances.
There was one in here who's taking a significant drop down in grade. He's around 10 to 1. And although his mark's not too bad, he's coming into this off 150. And they've not done too great at protecting his mark. But he's a horse who just hasn't stayed 3 miles in terms of 3 mile staying hurdles. And it's McFabulous who comes into this. He's been dropped down in trip for this race. And I can tell that Jack sort of turned his nose up there, which doesn't bode well for my reasoning here. But to me, I completely agree with Paul Nicholls. He's never stayed 3 miles. He's always travelled into a race over 3 miles like a winner, but just hasn't quite got home. And I just think a handicap here, if it's run at a furious gallop, which it should be, if Heaven Helps Us goes forward and McFabulous can just drop in. He's a horse who's a very strong traveller, and he travels through. He can actually, on his days, saunter through his races. And I just feel like he could run a big race here. The plan is next season to go novice chasing. He's always looked to be a chaser. So this is a final stepping stone before they put him away for next season and then they're taking away fences. But I think he's got a good chance here.
Well, you and me, Luke, who happened to be at that infamous, I say infamous, it was the meeting of the jump season opener in 2020 in which it was completely quiet.
It's me and you.
And yet there was it was indeed me. And I must admit, there was a bit of a hush around when the limited participants that we had there, when McFabulous destroyed the field in the Persian War. And I just hope that Giraffe Racing get a big prize for him, because his options as a 2.5 miler are not exactly great. And the only race theoretically they can stick him in at Cheltenham is either this or the Martin Pipe.
Exactly.
And, I really hope that, I know I haven't mentioned them, but if they could squeak into a place, it'd be absolutely brilliant for them, because they're a great bunch of people. And they've got this horse which has a lot of potential, but it's just finding the right race for them. And you mentioned the Moor Battle bumper. It was a huge shame for Kelso, really, because it's one of their big races of the year. You want it to be a spectacle, and I just felt sorry for them. They had to doll off a couple of hurdles. Safety's paramount, don't get me wrong. We're always going to be, the horse comes first, as always. But I just felt it was a bit of a shame they had to lose a couple of hurdles. But there we go. If anyone's reading this and wants to know how much of a minefield the Coral Cup is, the only way I can describe it is, imagine you're in a rugby team, all 22 of you going for a jog around the field, and the referees jump in as well. Imagine all of you cramming around a rugby field, and you're like, how am I going to get to the front? That's what it is. It's an absolute minefield.
It's a very good analogy there, which perfectly sums up the Coral Cup and allows us to just softly move into the champion chase now, which comes up as the big headline of day 2. Look, we're going to start things off of talking about that race at Ascot between Shishkin and Energumene. It was everything it was bigged up to be. It was a fantastic race, probably one of the best races of the past sort of 10 years, I'd perhaps want to say. And people might think I could be wrong there, but I just think in terms of how it was built, it delivered on all that promise. And again, similar to Honeysuckle and Champion Hurdle, this looks to be Shishkin's lap of honour once again.
I'll be honest with you, with this whole situation, bit of a plea to every trainer out there. If you've got a horse that's in the race, bloody run them, because look at the spectacle it proved to be. You never know. You might, like, I was speaking to Kim Bailey a few weeks after at Larkhill, and he was absolutely thrilled to bits with his horse who came third. Why would you not run your horse in a graded race like that if they're good enough? But please, we all moan about small fields and everything. Get your horses, cram them in, because that race proved to be an absolute spectacle. And yes, admittedly, Energumene took a very wild drift in the exchanges this week because of a stone bruise. I think it could be Shishkin's lap of honour, just like Honeysuckle's Champion Hurdle. But I'll be honest with you, I quite fancy a horse who, if they go out in front and pound the others into submission, they've got enough stamina to win it.
The first flow?
No. Forgotten Horse from Ireland.
It's not Chacun Pour Soir, is it?
Nope.
I was going to say, if it's Chacun Pour Soir, leave that on the boat back to Ireland. This is not going to happen.
Oh, hang on. It's Envoy Allen.
Yeah. He's been written off this year because of one poor run in the John Durkan. Why? He wasn't right. Even his former handler, his stable lass, you name the person who loves and looked after him dearly, even she turned round and said, that's not the real Envoy there. Something's bothering him. And yes, he was workmanlike in 2 miles at Leopardstown. But he did the job. He got it done. And if he goes out in front and does what he did at Down Royal when he's maiden hurdle and just pounds him into submission, I know what everyone will say is, oh, we didn't see that. But no, I think 14-1 last time I checked for Envoy Allen.
He's 20s.
Again, 20. Why is he going out? Is he going to the Ryanair?
Surely not.
Okay, so
if
I'm just
planning to run Allaho in the Ryanair and he's not going to get stopped, why not give him a chance in a champion chase? Let him bowl out in front, take dead aim at his fences, and pound his rivals into submission.
Jack, I'll let you take us up, and I'll follow your lead afterwards.
I actually don't think Envoy Allen should be going to Cheltenham this time around. They've got Allaho in the Ryanair. I don't think 2 miles is his trip anymore. And And if I seem to remember, Envoy Allen was bought to be a 3-mile chaser in time. So
True.
stepping back to 2 miles is, for me, the wrong step. But hey, I don't own the horse. I don't train the horse. I just look at what the form is there. So I'm just going to keep it again. I feel like almost keeping it very brief because we all know what's happened. So I'm going to go for Shishkin. I'm still
Gone
yet
for the
to see him.
favourite. He's got all the time to pick a nice each way horse, and he's gone for the favourite.
Now, but bear in mind, I'm still yet to see Shishkin. I desperately want to see Shishkin. I desperately want to photograph him, because I really, it's embarrassing that I haven't seen him yet. There's so many horses that I want to go out and photograph, but I haven't seen him yet. So if he won, I'd be dead happy. Chacun Pour Soi's unforgivable for last year's showing. In Nergamine, the only thing I'd say, apart from the fact that Shishkin is technically 1-0 up, is this track going to suit him? I've mentioned Envoy Allen is the wrong race for him. First flow is all ground dependent. So chances are, unless, I've checked the forecast leading into the week, I'm not sure that there's an absolute downpour forecast at all. So he's probably going to be found out by the ground. Hitman, I think the Aintree suits him more. I'd rather see him at Aintree. But I tell you this now, there's one horse I haven't mentioned yet. And if this horse wins, there is a very talented young journalist, 17 years old, for Ryanair in Racing, who, if this horse wins, will be the happiest girl in the land. Nube Negra. And that person is Sam Martin of Ryanair in Racing. Very good young journalist, but I think they're not out of it. They've got an each way shout, absolute minimum. And hey, if something happened to Shishkin, racing's not a certainty. You never know. A lot of people think Nube Negra should have won the race last year. I know it probably wasn't as strong last year as it is this year, but I do think they are not without a chance.
As far as I think the Nube Negra, I've never been convinced he finds a lot off the bridle ever. I've always felt like he's never been one who finds too much off the bridle. He's very much a travelly horse, travels into his race really well. But then when push comes to shove, I've never been too convinced. Looking at the rest of the field here, I think this is going to be one at an absolute breakneck speed. I think All Mankind's going to go from the front, and Ergamine's going to go from the front. First Flow, if he goes, will want to go from the front. There's 3 there straight away who want to go from the front. And I think it's going to suit Nico very, very, very well. If he just slips in behind the front 3, if they all go off, gets a lovely toe into the race, and he should win. But I liked him at a price. He's 14-1, Fun and Borsabola in this. I think he's a horse who can definitely pick up the pieces. A Game Spirit Chase winner last time out. He was a Doncaster winner 2 starts ago. Look, he was very workmanlike at Doncaster and somewhat scrambled home with before midnight in second to his fancies for the Grand Annual by a few. But I liked what he did in the Game Spirit. He beat So Royal last time in Hitman, who I think is going for the Ryanair Jack Hitman. He's a big price for that, but I think he's on course for that. But I just think with the way the race could be run, the Venetia Williams team has been in sparkling form all season. And I think at 14-1, if it's run at a breakneck speed, like I think it will be with the front runners going off at a good clip, I think he could definitely pick up some of the pieces here. He was 3 lengths in behind Shishkin in the Maggle last year at Aintree. Well, I actually thought Shishkin wasn't that good last year at Aintree. I thought he was a tad workmanlike, but he still got the job done. Chacun Pour Soi might as well stay at home because whenever he steps off the boat from Ireland to Great Britain, he turns around and hates it. And for me, Envoy Allen is the Goldilocks and the 3 Bears horse, really. Hotel de Bromhead is not up to his standards, and we've seen that. And he wants to go back to Gordon, have Gordon's hotel again, because Hotel de Bromhead just isn't working for him at the moment. But as far as I'm concerned, Shishkin should win this, and I really like the look of Funnable Cibola each way in this as well. Is that so? We all confirmed on the champion chase. We'll give our picks. We're ready to rock and roll into the cross country, which is another big talking point of the race. We'll start things off in the cross country with, of course, Tiger Roll. Look, it's a terrible shame he's not in the Grand National. And I'm going to open things up by saying this. Look, I know Michael O'Leary was somewhat disappointed with the handicapper for giving him that weight of 11. Was it 11 stone? Was it 11 stone 5 or 4?
11 stone 5, if I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
11
think it
stone
was.
5.
In my
It's
opinion,
irrelevant anyway, guys. It's irrelevant completely.
I just think, in my opinion, running him round in the bowl last year and the many clouds this year, to me, if I was the handicapper, there's no concrete proof that he can't be at the weight he was. I think if he ran that beacher chase on the same day, and say, for example, he finished 4th or 5th, was beaten 12 to 14 lengths, then I think that's more of a justification to drop him. Because Tiger Roll, in my opinion, comes live in this sphere, whether it's cross-country or Grand National course, he comes alive. And until we see otherwise around Aintree, I don't think you can drop him. And okay, he pulled up in the December cross country last year and Robbie Power rode him, but then he came roaring back to his best at Cheltenham when he slammed Easy's land. It's disappointing we're not going to see him at Aintree, I must admit. And to be honest, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I think it's obviously incredibly disappointing, but did somebody mention Tiger Roll?
Oh, he's brought them up especially for this, isn't he? And that someone get the drum out. Want to stand up to commencing.
Where's the butter, Jack? Where's the butter, for crying out loud? I'm sat here, I've got soup. I'm waiting here.
I tell you what, that for anyone who doesn't get the reference to what I just pulled out, Tiger Roll, Kevin Blake a few years ago, Cheltenham Festival previewing for at the races at the Goat Inn in Dublin. He stood up and he fired a load of Tiger Rolls at the crowd saying, "You get a Tiger Roll, you get a Tiger Roll." And I'm watching that, I'm absolutely laughing my head off. And I will always remember, I mean, I'm not going to quote it absolutely word for word because there was an expletive in it, but he was it, what year was it? Was it 2018 or was it 2019 where Kevin Blake stood up and he said, my biggest bet and my best fancy of the entire Cheltenham Festival is because this horse is absolutely beeping flying at home and it's Tiger Roll. And the host just turned around and went, "What?
I think it was
What? You got to be joking."
Yeah.
And oh my word, he absolutely hosed up that day. And again, I mean, yes, it's a shame he's not in the Grand National, but the handicapper could, and everyone, I mean, it was a very unkept secret, very loosely kept, that they were obviously trying to lower his handicap mark, and the handicapper wasn't having any of it. You know, it's been very disappointing. But you know, this is Cheltenham. We're not focusing on Aintree yet. So this is going to be his swan song, and I don't think there's going to be anyone that will disagree that if we saw the Tiger winning on his final race, hey, it's a good job that Cheltenham's an outdoor track, because if it was indoors, there wouldn't be any roof on it. But just having a look at the rest of the runners, I mean, if you're going to think Tiger Roll's a likely winner, fair enough. I actually don't. I actually think there's another horse in this lot.
Surely not Easy's Land. Surely not Easy's Land. That campaign Easy's Land had has just been mind-boggling. 2 starts over hurdles. For the life of me, I can't understand it.
Yeah, I'd be honest, I don't know either. But my horse is not Easy's Land. I don't think I could pick them even off the basis of their form this season. I just think that obviously there was an issue with Tiger Roll the previous year, and since then the record has been well and truly put straight. Few horses are like in this. Back on the Lash, she's course and distance winner. Been absolutely brilliant for trainer Martin Keeley. There's nothing, again, that anyone can say bad about Mr. Keeley. He's absolutely fantastic. We've been round to his yard once, and we had an absolutely thrilling time there. So absolutely big up the Conduct trainer. And then there's a few of them. Like, I look at this and I think to myself, all right, there's desperation creeping in here. Brahma Bull. Brahma Bull.
Monkfish doppelganger.
Okay. Little bit strange. Yes, this could be Monkfish in disguise, but even Monkfish would look at this and go, nah. Delta work, this is quite interesting. I know Gordon Elliott has taken him over to school over the fences, but you know, this is a different kettle of fish to what he's used to. He could be absolutely brilliant. He could also be absolutely dire. So for that reason, I can't bet on him. Couldn't pick him at all. Diesel Dalia, again, another course and distance winner, but his win was when he was a bottom weight, whereas this is more level weights in the race. So again, you'd have to take him with a pinch of salt. My notes here say Easy's Land prep, inverted commas, runs have been bad. But the thing is, John will have the race in mind, so surely there's method to the madness.
Hope so.
Brengard, again, an unknown quantity. Apparently, he's not coming here. Apparently, he's not running in this race. Like I said, Tiger Roll, Now, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was trying to think of horses, not necessarily the most successful because they've won the amount of times at the race, at the festival rather. But would he not be the most successful horse to have run in 3 different races if he won this?
I think that's accurate. I think you're correct there.
Because obviously Golden Mill's won 5 Gold Cups, Quevega's won 6 Mares Hurdles, but I can't think. I mean, if somebody's out there that can clarify this, but Tiger Roll's won a National Hunt Chase, a Triumph Hurdle, and a cross country chase twice. So that means he's going into this race on a 5-timer. If he wins this, surely there's no other horse that I can think of has won at 3 different races at the festival, one of them multiple times. Again, another thing to look at. That would be absolutely fantastic for the piece. But and I know Tom's going to agree with me. There's one horse, 8-1 last time I looked, that I can't see past in this. I think he's absolute value. He's a little bit of a Banks expert in Punchestown. It's Shady Operator.
He's 8-1, yeah.
Yeah, really like him. I think he stands. Whereas a few of them have got question marks over how they won, their form. I think he is an absolute shout.
And Tom, you've been waiting quite patiently while we've harped on about half the field, and Tom sat there with his arms folded patiently. Take it away.
All I can say is controversy follows the old Aries like the wedding vegetables on the British Warlord. I mean, they stick out like a sore thumb every time you see them. And it's a shame, really, that we won't get to see the absolute little horse doing what he does best and looking at the chair and going, I'm eating you. You know, we won't get to see him there, which is a huge shame for racing. But you've got the Quevega bar that was opened up by Cheltenham. I'm sure there's a Golden Miller bar somewhere at Cheltenham. But if Tiger Roll wins, can someone at Cheltenham please have a Tiger Roll bakery? Serving hot pasties or something.
Or sandwich bar.
Pies, sandwich bar, something, because this lad, he's not my pick, as Jack has said.
I can start 4 off. You know?
That's his snack for the preview. He's going to get hungry and start eating that in a minute.
But yeah, I think whilst it would be absolutely just tears everywhere, cheers everywhere and everything, and happy retirement.
Beer flying everywhere.
Beer flying everywhere anyway. Someone just falls over with a tray and everyone goes, way. I just think it won't happen because Shady Operator, he loves the Banks course. He's trained by the god in Ireland of cross country in Enderbolger. You know, you could get a cart horse to win if he goes with Enderbolger. You could get a Welsh mountain pony to win the cross country if you send them to there. But I just think this Shady Operator is a good thing. He loves a trip and he's hard to see against. One who I can't go on, however, is his stablemate, Champagne Platinum. I don't know why, but I always have this resentment because I fancied him privately at Cheltenham.
I know where this is going as well.
I was one of the proudest moments of my career so far has been when I was accredited at Cheltenham in 2019, and I saw him running in the race against Mr. Fish, and I thought potentially on paper he's a very good thing. And then unfortunately, it was like he went, you know what, I don't fancy this. I just think, you know, since he's gone to Enderbolger, he's got even better. But I think this Shady Operator's just streets clear.
I agree with you about Tiger Roll. I think back on the lash, as Jack said, he's got a good chance each way for the Keithleys. Yeah, I just think he's got a good chance in this. He's got the proven form. The sat-nav should be working perfectly well round here. Where
it's the bottom of the hill. It should be working.
Well, I hope so.
Carry on going one way from Condicut and you're straight down.
Just before we move into the Grand Annual quickly, Potter's Corner's in this at 20-1. He was narrow second in December behind Diesel Dalia. Look, he's not the horse he once was over regulation fences. He's now back in this possibly. Can we see him laying a glove on any of the market leaders here?
If it was a virtual one, maybe.
I certainly can, to be honest. But what I will say, just for the benefit of all the viewers, is the host tonight, Luca, he's the unofficial president of the Christian Williams fan club. So as a result, you know, it's impossible not to see why. You know, Christian has an absolutely fantastic team. He's got some fantastic horses. But I think if Potter's Corner even got each way, I think Christian would be the happiest man in the land.
Definitely, I think so as well.
I just want to say as well, a point regarding Easysland. You say there's method in the madness. We've heard of stranger tales. It might well be that John Joe is just getting him fit, building on him back at Jackdaw's Castle, and then you watch upset the apple cart, and everyone will be like, oh, cracking training performance, and cracking training performance, when a couple of weeks earlier, everyone's going, what is he doing?
That's what I'm half expecting. He's got more peas in a chip shop in his form at the moment, so I can't be exactly backing with too much confidence right now. But look, we've spent more time on that than probably any other race, so it just suggests how tight it could be on the day. But we'll move now.
Never get rid of it. Never get rid of it. It's an absolute spectacle. It takes a unique horse to win it. And I'm sorry, but you can get much closer there, you know, with staying behind the rails, obviously, if you're thinking getting closer. But you get up to the heart of the action in there, because you go on the inside of the course. And the opportunities for photos for people like myself and Jack are absolutely spectacular.
Okay.
You know, please never get rid of it.
That's perfect. Cross country done. We'll now move into the Grand Annual. Another mindful of a handicap here, really. I have got a pick for this, but we'll run through some of the market leaders here. Buddy Rich is currently 7-1 for Ireland. Brave Siesta 8, Ciel Denesia 8-1, Course of Lime 10s, Time White 10s, Amarillo Sky at 10s, and it's 12-1 bigger. Look, we'll touch upon Amarillo Sky quickly. I was at Newbury a couple of weeks ago when he beat Shake 'em Up Harry. He's one of two, I think, for the Tizard who's going to go into this. I fancy the second Tizard horse in this, Elixir de Nuts, but I'll talk about him once we've all gone round. Before Midnight's in here as well. He was very impressive at Cheltenham couple of starts ago. Has since bumped into Shishkin at Kempton and also Fun and Ball Savola at Doncaster. Editor de Geet's an interesting one. He's actually in the champion chase. And I'm hoping he doesn't go there, because if he were to go there, I think it would be a terrible shame. He was meant to be in the game spirit, but he didn't go. And I'm happy he didn't go, because I think he would have been placed and his mark would have been blown, which would have meant he couldn't have come here and gone to the champion chase instead. So I think he could definitely be one in here with a good chance. But I'll explain why I like Elixir de Nuts shortly. Tom, I'll let you take the floor with this one first, because you were so patient with the cross country. Who are you liking the look of on this so far?
Sealed in the edge if he doesn't run in the Arkle.
Just like that, okay. Jack?
I just thought I'd be just blunt and brutally honest. I think he's got a cracking chance. So, floor's yours, guys.
Go on, Jack. You can weigh in.
Very kindly, Luca, again, because we rather took some time, I will let you have most of the speaking. I'm just going to be quite short and straight to the point. Don't think Sky Pirate's going to win this again. Brave Siaska is a very nice horse. Brave Shishka, I don't know how you pronounce it. I probably said it wrong anyway twice. There's very good form behind Edwardstone. I mean, if Edwardstone was to win the Arkle, I think his price would plummet for this race. I'd love to see Gumball run a stormer for Ferg. I really would. We were there at York when he won his 2-mile handicap. I know that was on the flat, don't get me wrong, but I'd love to see him win, and you know he's got a very healthy fan club behind him. For Pleasure, I think anyone who backs for Pleasure will be watching the race like this,
waiting for him to
like that, literally waiting for him to come a cropper. But I actually think I haven't looked too much into this, but if there's one horse that chooses this over the Arkle, I think he hacks up. It's Course Sublime.
That's
I really hope, I mean, I'm going to be praying to every deity in the world that Course Sublime runs in this, because I think if he goes in this, he hacks up. And that's my 2 pence on it.
That's a very valid point. I'm not too sure where he's going to line up. He's got a good chance in, but I wouldn't say I'd say he's got an each way chance in the Arkle, but I think he's probably have a better chance here, as you say. I'm going to go with Elixir de Nuts in this. I just think he's been a horse who was a Tolworth winner a couple of years ago, and he had just lost his way a bit over fences last season as well. I was at Hereford last year when he Christmas, but just before Christmas, sorry, and he ran in a novice chase with Le Patriot of Dr. Richard Newland. And his jumping that day wasn't great. He missed one or two down the back, and his chance Sawbuck gone turning for home. And it's taken a while for the Tizzars to find the key to him, but he's definitely the key's been unlocked to him this season, and he's been very good. I think he comes into this of a very nice mark here. I'm trying to think of what mark he comes in off of, but it's a very nice mark. I've got it written down here somewhere. Just bear with me a second, guys.
This is where he just skews through the notes, the scribble.
Forgive me.
He comes into this, forgive me, please. He comes into this off of a mark of 143, which I think is very, very nice. And I think Brendan Powell's coming. I think Brendan Powell will ride Martello Sky, which means there's a very nice spare ride for somebody here in this race. And he's got a weight of 10-13 too, which I think is fantastic. He's beaten Nassalam over fences at Plumpton. Nassalam since has gone on to Fontwell. I think Nassalam's a good horse, but he's got his own thoughts about things. And look, I think he's also a narrow second behind Gladiator Allen at Exeter a couple of starts ago. He brings the class angle into this race. I just think he's incredibly well handicapped and well weighted. And I would be very surprised if he's currently 16-1. And I've had a couple of quid in him already for it, because I think he'll go off significantly shorter. And I could see him going off at least near the top of the market for this. I just think he could be one of the best chances of the week, in my opinion. I think he's just that good. I think he can win this.
Brilliant. I'll say this for certain as well. You know, we've touched a couple of times on Fergal O'Brien having a good team to go in there. If it is Fergal does have a winner, it's going to be a Battenberg and a Victoria Sponge in the colours of the winning horse.
Was that meant to be a private joke I've missed there?
He loves cake.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, I'm aware with the fairies there.
My Victoria Sponge it's a good one.
Yet to sample that, Bly. I'm eagerly awaiting the day my taste buds get to explore that wonderful cake. Okie dokie, right, we shall move now into the champion bumper. On paper, this looks a two-horse race. Facile Vega, 8-11 favourite after what she done at Leopardstown. I like American Mike in this, though, in my opinion, at 9-4. And listening to Jamie Codd speaking on the At the Races Cheltenham preview, my grin got bigger as he continued to speak, because he thinks so highly of the horse. And I completely agree with him. I think out of the pair, long term, he's the better horse. He's currently 9-4. I think that's a good. I think it's a decent enough price, in my opinion. I think Facile Vega's too short at 8-11 at the moment, and she's worth taking on. At the prices, though, there was one here just quickly before I pass over to you guys. I'm not too sure if this horse is going to go to Sandown at the weekend or not, but it's Milton House's Mullenbeg. And this horse went to Ludlow a couple of months ago in January and whizzed around Ludlow very impressively. And I sort of took note then, and I thought this could be a half-decent horse. Since then, Mullenbeg went to Cheltenham in a listed bumper. And I talk about bolting up. This horse absolutely hacked up under Mitch Bastian. Rode his claim out that day on this horse. I'm praying he goes to the horse goes to the champion bumper and not to Sandown at the weekend, because I think 14-1, cracking each way bet here. But for me, I like American Mike here. Tom, you nodded in agreement, but Jack, I'm going to start with you this time. Where are you thinking?
Yeah, American Mike, 100%.
He built that national anthem.
I've got the American flag downstairs. We take up the loop, but you know, I can't be bothered.
If that was loop, as in Mac loop, as in low flying aircraft, in case anyone thought he said take it to the toilet.
No, definitely not take it to the toilet. No, definitely the Mac loop in mid Wales.
And also Lake District, that's somewhere we're taking it. But I was lucky enough to be at the sale when American Mike went through the ring at Newmarket. It was meant to be one of the Cheltenham sales, but due to COVID, they were all put at Newmarket. And I mean, this lad, I think it was something like, well, he wasn't lot 8, but it was one of the lots in there. You walked in there and this rangy gelding, and he looked special then. And when he was going round the ring, everyone was just captivated by him. He would just have this swagger about him. And then when you hear that he's gone for such a high price, you sat there going, yeah, no wonder. And he's absolutely hacked up. I think Facile Vega, the lot of momentum on them is because they are progeny of the great Quavega.
Definitely.
But I just feel that this American Mike is sent from the gods. I genuinely feel as though he is something special. I can't wait for Gordon Elliott to send him loose over hurdles at Down Royal at either the end of October or beginning of November, whenever that meeting is this year. So everyone, put your money on him. Let's all get on that ferry or in the planes over to Down Royal in October, November time, and watch him hack up in his maiden hurdle.
And we'll always a glass to Uncle Sam too in the process. Okay, we move into day 3 with. I've done it as well. We move into day 3 with the Turners Novices Chase here coming up. It looks on paper, people might think a straight shootout between Bob Ollinger and the absolute freight train Galopin des Champs, but I'm going to go with L'Homme Pressé in this. I just think he's a horse who many people are sort of sleeping on here in this race. He's done very well this season. A Scilly Isles Grade 1 Novices Chase winner. I like the way he goes about his business. I think he's a good jumper. He's got a fantastic engine in his own right too. Bob Ollinger's jumping, I can pick holes in, I think. I don't think he's the best jumper over a fence, and I think that could cost him round here. I think his lack of experience, it's a negative. A Galopin des Champs, if he gets loose on the front end and gets into rhythm, I don't think they catch him. But L'Homme Pressé at 3-1, I think represents good value here.
Yep, I think I completely agree. On L'Homme Pressé is great each way value. Its form as well has been boosted only a couple of weekends ago with Peak Dory winning the.
That's correct.
Winning the Pendle Novices Chase. I mean, and he won that pretty impressively. And remember, he was about 20 lengths behind Peak Dory at Sandown. So again, that gave the form a nice little boost. Just before I mention my pick, Tom, have you got any thoughts on this?
I think that whilst, if you look at the jumping of 2 market rivals, you've got Bob Ollinger and Galopin des Champs. You can compare them really to cheese. Whereas Bob Ollinger is an Edam with some holes in it. Galopin des Champs is a big slab of cheddar.
Just all round good.
I'm sorry, but first time out, you don't jump like that in a race around Leopardstown. You don't ping your fences from one after to the other, to the point where you've got people talking about him in such revered terms already. That horse is a monster. He could be absolutely anything. And I'm sorry, but he is just absolutely incredible. He is. I'll be honest with you, I don't like saying this phrase, but I think he's bomb-proof.
That's a big word used at Cheltenham by so many people over the years. It's a big audacious. So I'm going to clip this up and I'm going to keep this in case it all goes Pete on for Galopin des Champs, because Tom stuck his neck out on the line here, which I can't blame you for. Yeah, I think that's really all we can say on that, really, isn't it? Really, I think we've discussed really. Well, unless Jack's coming in with something important.
Well, I think the last 2 things I'll say on this race is I couldn't bet on Bob Ollinger. I know. Kevin Blake, I think it was, came the other day and said that his jumping's improved and it's not been as atrocious as it's made out to be. But, you know, I think I'd rather take the 2 runs of Galopin des Champs over the 2 runs of Bob Ollinger. He's not the certainty he was last season, for example, when he won the Ballymore. But whereas I was impressed with Galopin des Champs in the Martin Pipe, I've been even more impressed with Galopin des Champs this time around. And I'll tell you what he reminds me of. Now, this is a strange analogy, but bear with me.
Oh, Christ.
You know, in those like American high school teen rom-com films where you have our hero, our young lad, he's normally like the nerdy kid. He's like the Leonard Hofstadters in The Big Bang Theory. And he's going after Penny. Now, Penny is the Turner's Prize. Galopin des Champs is the high school American quarterback that plays for the high school team. He's good looking. He's fit as a fiddle. He's absolutely stunning. And he gets all the attention. And our hero is like L'Homme Pressé. L'Homme Pressé is a good thing, but you just know if he comes up against that standard, he ain't got a cat and else chance. It's almost like Teenage Dirtbag from Wheatus.
My gosh.
Blast of the past there.
So yeah, Galopin des Champs absolutely hats up. And when that happens, like, you know, we'll all be going, was it ever in doubt?
I'm going to stick my neck out and say L'Homme Pressé to cause a small upset in this. I think he's a good horse and I think he's very much underrated going into this.
I would actually like to say that I think Long Press would be a great anti-post bet for the Peterborough.
That's such a good shout. Do you think he could be a horse as quickly? He could be a serious horse next year in terms of sort of champion chase sort of category.
He's in cracking connections' hands. I completely understand why you've gone for him. I'll be honest, I think he's the best of the British.
Oh, definitely.
Pick Dory, whilst he's gone and won the Pendle, absolutely brilliant. I'm not sure the record of Pendle winners to Cheltenham Festival has gone particularly well.
I don't think
but I think whilst Pick Dory is trained by the maestro that is Paul Nicholls, I just think that Long Presse's just got this natural raw ability. And wouldn't it be superb for Charlie Deutsch to get that win?
He's a fantastic jockey, who, in my opinion, for so long has been
Great lad.
And I'm just happy this year he's had that breakthrough that he so badly deserves, because he's been on the top of his game for a good few years now. And what I like about him is his hands on the horse are just so good. He's so quiet on a horse. You rarely see him pick up his stick unless he needs to. And that's always, for me, a good sign for a good jockey, where the stick's the last resort. It's very much hands and heels, a good level of fitness too. And I'm just very happy he's had that breakthrough this season.
We need more Charlie Deutsches. We need more Charlie Deutsches.
100%. I think that's a good note to leave that on. We'll rattle through the Temps final. Again, it's a minefield of a handicap here. And I know that Fergal O'Brien's got Alaphilippe in this, and I'm sure I'll pass it over to you two, because I know you two might have a bit more of an idea about Alaphilippe for some of the viewers here. Jack's got his hand up. We're going to go to him first. He's got his hand up. He's having a rave with his headphones, and I can't tell, but we'll go to him anyway.
He hacks up. End of. Hacks up.
Okay.
That's my pick. 100%. Now, a lot of people will be probably wondering, oh my God, Jack, what the hell are you talking about? His run at Warwick was not what some people expected. He came there cruising towards the last and just emptied, but he had been off for a while. So I'm just going to be quite clear, quite straight to the point. Alaphilippe wins it.
And Tom, are you in Fergal fever, or are you swaying away from him?
I think he's got a crack in each way chance, Alaphilippe. I generally think at some point Fergal O'Brien is going to have a big festival. I hope it's this year, because he really deserved it. So do the team. They are absolutely brilliant. Can't speak enough of them. But I do think that there is a horse that, that the fear is that Kevin Blake's big nap, Winter Fog, or whatever his name is. Is it Winter Fog?
Yeah, Winter Fog.
He is being touted in the same race. I think that Gordon Elliott's Sassy Yet Classy is a huge, massive chance, because the last time they went and run was over 2 mile 4, which was unsuitable for them. Horse clearly wants 3 miles now, and would have been much closer to Commander of Fleet when they met. I think it was at Leopardstown again, if they had not stumbled after the first and got rid of the jockey, which wasn't their fault. But before that, just looked a very, very good horse. And that at the end of the day, it is a minefield. It's like literally go, okay, there's about needle in 15 haystacks, off you go kind of thing. But I do think that these handicaps are targeted by horses that might not have been up the top level, but especially from Ireland coming over. But then you've got potential good swords. And I think Sassy Yet Classy is very good each way. Last time I checked was 14-1. But I will say as well, I do fear Winter Fog and Alaphilippe for that one.
Yeah, Sassy Yet Classy is 14s still. I can't say my opinions are too strong yet until decks come out for this race. Sporting Johnny's favourite, a classy chaser on his day, just hasn't gone right from the fences, has it? Really, he's now back hurdling. Was good in the qualifier at Warwick. Ballyandy's in here. I don't think he's got much of a chance, but I mentioned him today because Finn Lambert rode a winner at Southall today, and in his interview after the race, he said, "I'm not going to ride it." He's got one more win on his £10 claim left. And he's saving that for Ballyandy next week at Cheltenham. So he's having no rides now between now and then. And his final ride, which he hopes can be a winning one for that £10 claim, is going to be used on Ballyandy, which stranger things have happened. Look, he's a horse now who I'm not putting him up here. I'm just trying to state the point of what I heard today, really, from the jockey. But I can't say, in my opinion, anyway, I've got too much of one in this at the moment. I think I'll just have to wait until decks come out. Just quickly, what are we thinking with Sire de Burley, a former winner of this race before? He's back in this year, has sort of mixed it at Stayers hurdle level as well. Wasn't quite good enough, now back in the attempts again.
I think he's got a chance, but I think I'm sticking with Alaphilippe.
Okay. Right, we'll now move into the Ryanair. I don't think this is one we'll be talking about for too long. What Allaho did in this race last year was just absolutely superb. To keep up that gallop from the top of the hill to the winning line was just fantastic. Look, I can't see anything beating him in this, and it's probably going to be the quickest race we go through, really. I think if we'll talk about Shamblu shortly, because he could have a chance, provided Harry Skelton doesn't decide to run like a 6 furlong sprinter like he did last year. He would have won the Charlie Hall, he stayed on his feet as well, but this to me is very much a penalty kick for Allaho.
Yep, completely agree.
Go on, Jack.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, Allaho, likely winner, penalty kick. Staying clear of Asterion for Longe. Eldorado Allen could sneak in a place if 16 horses run.
Definitely.
Envoy Allen, I think he has to enter calculations, but obviously if he's going for the champion chase, that's null and void. Janadil's a nice each way shout. I think he could be one that's underestimated. And as for the rest, St. Calvados again, staying clear. So for me, it's Allaho.
And Tom, for you?
I think that if he runs Tornado Flyer, he'll take a lot of beating because he's a bit of an each-way alternative to Allaho. Allaho probably will win this because he was just a demolition job last year. But if, for example, he doesn't fire, then we've got Tornado Flyer coming in. But that is only Tornado Flyer if Envoy Allen doesn't run in the champion chase, because I pretty much love Envoy Allen to the point where I'd follow him off a cliff and another cliff and another cliff if he wanted me to. I don't like button mushrooms, but I would eat a plate full of them if he told me to. I just think Envoy Allen's been underrated, and I think this is more his track. And yeah, he had an unrealistic and unhelpful fall last year, but I think if he gets back onto some workable mark, he could be a good thing. But obviously, it's probably Allaho's to lose. In fact, would you say everyone else needs to start now?
I'd say everyone has to. I think everyone needs to have started last week for Allaho to have not won this. I just think, looking at the rest of the field, I can see this cutting up. In my opinion, I can see this cutting up quite badly. I'm going to make a brief point about Eldorado Allen. I backed him off of the back of his Denman Chase win. He was very good that day. Perhaps not going to stay in the Gold Cup, so I can see why Connections took him here. Fanny and Destraval, not for me. St. Calvados, look, I don't think he's been the same horse since leaving Harry Whittington's. I think Harry was the man who got the best out of him, was narrow second in this race a couple of years ago, and I think if he'd have jumped the last better, he'd have won that race, but he didn't. Was given a unique ride in the King George last time, where he came there looking like he was going to win. He's similar to McFabulous. He's not a 3 miler. He's been tried over 3 miles, a flat 3 miles, and hasn't stayed. So he's back here again. But look, I can't say too much more other than Allaho in this, and I'm sure you both agree with me.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Perfect. Which now brings us into perhaps the most mind-boggling division of the entire week. It's the Stayers Hurdle. And for the life of me, it's just been an absolute whirlwind of just absolute carnage this season for me in terms of the Stayers Hurdle. We'll start with Champ, first of all. Champ, who was last seen last year at Cheltenham, running an absolute horrific Gold Cup where he jumped awfully and his chance was over before they turned down the back. People talk about Champ like he's this young progressive horse who's going to emerge one day and reign supreme on a division in some capacity. He's 10 years old, and 10-year-olds do not win the Stayers Hurdle, but he's a 10-year-old. He's not going to improve too much between now and perhaps the end of his career in 3 years' time. He's been around for a couple of years now. Everyone was, I felt, getting a little bit carried away when he won the long walk at Ascot, mentioning him in the same breath as Big Bucks, which to me is absolutely insulting to Big Bucks, because Big Bucks was an absolute one in a generation. And Champ, in my opinion, confirmed what I thought I already knew at Cheltenham last time. He hung violently left up the hill, threw away his chance to Paisley Park, and I can't see Champ winning this. I'll be surprised if he does. Before I pass to you guys, I think Time Hill's a forgotten horse in this race. He's not been mentioned hardly at all, and I think he's got a good chance in this. Whereas Flooring Porter really just stood in his box, watched everything unfold around him, and probably thought nothing to worry about. I backed him last year in the race. I think if he's on a going day, he wins again. He's 5-2 at the moment. He's perhaps a bit too short for my liking. I'd probably take him on. And I think Time Hill, being the forgotten horse in this, I would love to see him win it. But Tom, I'll start with you this time here. What's your view on this absolute mind-boggling sort of stairs hurdle?
I agree with you regarding Time Hill. I think people are writing him off because we haven't seen a lot of him this year, and also his run in France was a little bit disappointing at the beginning of the season. However, I know that somebody, if I don't mention this horse, will absolutely crucify me if I go anywhere near Leicester. And the answer is, my tip is, or rather, if I was going to be placing money on this one, I'd be on Flooring Porter. You know, he fell first time out, but it wasn't his fault. He stumbled on landing.
Yeah.
And then he's only found Classical Dream too good at Christmas, but he absolutely loves Cheltenham. No, I just going to keep it short and sweet. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think Flooring Porter becomes a multiple winner of this race. I'd love to see Paisley Park win, and I know a certain lady called Izzy would love to do that one. She'd love to be screaming him home, etc. But I think what he did at Cheltenham was fantastic last time out. I think he's vulnerable to Flooring Porter.
Mm.
And Jack, your views?
Yeah, I think this one is a toss-up between the fact that Champ definitely doesn't win this. Flooring Porter has been, he's been interesting. Was it, he fell at Navan when he went completely and utterly left field?
Yeah, it was Navan.
Was it this? Yeah, it was when
this season, yeah.
That surprised me a little bit. I don't know. I to be honest with you, I haven't really warmed to the horse. I don't know what it is. I still think last year was a fluke. I really do. And I know, oh God, I just felt like the eyes in the back of my head from Sam. But yeah, I again, the Irish angle, Classical Dream. Right, let's get this one out the way. He stole the Christmas hurdle. Paul Townend got about 7 or 8 lengths cheaply. In fact, no, not cheaply. He completely and utterly stole them. That's how he won that race. If he doesn't steal those lengths, Flooring Porter wins it. Simple as. So that's why I put Flooring Porter above Classical Dream. The ground for the Gold Cup on the Friday will be heavy, changed from good to soft, because if Paisley Park wins, that's exactly what's going to happen when Izzy cries her eyes out. Because, you know, if this horse wins, like, I don't think there won't be a sore, well, there will be sore throats. There won't be a normal throat because everyone will be screaming him home, even if you had to bet on him or not, because he's such a little legend, Paisley Park. But my horse, now there's 2 that I looked at that were quite interesting. So the first one is Time Hill. Now, when you run in a race at Auteuil and come, I think it was 5th, that's not going to set the world alight for a stayers hurdle. But I think he's been laid out for this race. They've had this in mind all season. They've worked backwards. So I think it's his race to lose. Although, I know we haven't talked about the race, but the Mare's Hurdle features a horse called Royal Kahala. Now, Royal Kahala last year disappointed in the Mare's Novice Hurdle. But this year they've gone out and won the Galmoy Hurdle. And I think they want 3 miles. So if this horse runs, they could sneak a place each way. Royal Kahala. I think she's on the upgrade. She's the little dark horse going in under the radar. But I think if I had to nail colours to the mast, I'd probably say Time Hill.
Yeah, I just think, as much as I like Flooring Porter, and having backed him last year, I want to back him again. I just think with the price he is, I think he could be worth taking on. I think Time Hill, as I said before, is a forgotten horse. Paisley Park cannot do what he did before and whip round at the start in this. I feel like he got away with that with a small field. If you do it here at Cheltenham, the Stayers Hurdle again, he ain't going to be able to turn that around, no matter what he does between the back of the last and the finishing post. There's not too much at a price, really. Listen, Goroska's not done anything since winning the Stayers Hurdle 2 years ago, which has been a dreadful shame, really. Mellon's in here. I just feel like Mellon's just chucked in every race in the hope something might happen one day for him. But other than that, I can't really say much. I'm going to go with you, Jack. I think Time Hill's a forgotten horse in this, and I'd love to see him win it, and I think he can win it. And Tom, your opinion, please, before we wrap this one up.
Flooring Porter.
Wonderful. Okie dokie. We now move into another competitive handicap. It is the Paddy Power Plate. And this looks a very, very, very hot race here. We've got Celebra Dalen's the favourite. I can't understand, quite grasp why he's favourite. I know Connections have had success in this before, in the past with Ballymagor, who was a very decent horse for David Pipe in his day. Imperial Alcazar, second favourite here. He's got multiple entries, but he's here as well. The Glancing Queen, a very good novice, a very tough mare for Alan King's in here as well at 9s. The Shunter's in here as well at 10s. Birchdale as well. I quite liked Fusel Raffles in this race. I felt like, to me, he was a horse who he's coming actually in this race off a career low mark, which to me was really surprising. I'm going to bring up his mark now, but he's off a career low mark. He was last. He was last seen in the Sky Bet Chase. He didn't quite stay 3 miles. He was a fortunate winner of the Charlie Hall, where Chamblou tipped up when he would have won by a country mile. And I just think the drop back to sort of 2.5 is right up Fusel Raffles Street. He was second in behind Chantry House last year in the Marsh. He's coming into off a mark of 149. And I think off a mark of 149, he's going to be very competitive here. Darryl Jacobs now back fit for Cheltenham too, which I think is a big plus. And I think the drop back in trips right up his street. He's in the Ultima 2, and I'm hoping they don't go for that, because I'm just not convinced he's an out-and-out 3-miler. I think he's much more effective over 2.5 to 2.5. And with what mark he's on, I just think he's very, very interesting here. He's got Cheltenham course form of reading 1-1-2-4 from 6 runs, which is pretty good. He's effective around the track, which is a big plus here. He's 14 to 1, and I think it's a very big price for a horse who's got some very good classy form in and around his novice days too.
Yeah, I think he's one of those horses that I personally didn't see jumping out at me at the screen when I was having a look at these. But, you know, you've made a very, very good case for him. So I'm hoping that he runs very well for you. I think there'll be a fair few people also going on that same tangent as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You've actually mentioned the horse I quite fancy for this. And yes, I am sort of, you know, muddying the water myself a little bit, because I actually really like Imperial Alcazar for this. Obviously, I mentioned previously he's also entered in this race. This would be more to his strength, seeing as he's won course and distance for this. I don't think the £8 rise is too excessive. So for me, he would be my selection, or the main danger, I think, is the Glancing Queen. She's definitely got a big race in her, and I think she will definitely put in another one of her, we've come to see them and we've come to find them, one of her best runs, because she's definitely saved something for this track. She acts around Cheltenham, and yeah, I think she'll have a really good time. Okay,
and Tom, for you, who's your pick in this very hot handicap?
Well, this handicap gave me one of my best ever Cheltenham Festival winners, in which I was that confident I was walking away to go and pick up my winnings when the horse had jumped the last.
Yeah.
I had a furlong to go up the hill. I was that confident. And that was Road to Respect years ago. But I think that there's a clear plot job going on, and it's with Fakir Delen. Currently 25 to 1, has had 2 wins in chases this season, the first by 20 lengths, and both of those he led. Now, he recently had a 7th place in a Grade A chase where he was dropped in. I think that that's showing where they think his target's going to be. They want to get a nice handicap mark for him. Hopefully chuck a conditional jockey on board, take a few more pounds off. And I think if he goes and bowls out in front and does what Road to Respect does and loves his fences all the way around Cheltenham, he's going to take some pinging back.
I think that might be a call for a certain Jordan Gainford in his £5 claim. There's a conditional who was seen to good effect on the shunter last year. I think he could get the ride for that. Okay, that sounds pretty good to me. We'll now rattle through the Kim Muir before we move on to the final day. I'm going to mention in this race, there's a horse here who I've been absolutely praying gets in the Grand National here, and I'm hoping he does, because I think if he gets in it, I think he could run a mighty race in it, and it's Schoolboy Hours. He's currently, I think, 63 in the national reckoning, so it's going to be a bit touch and go between now and April whether he gets in or not. But he was a good winner last time out at Leopardstown in the Paddy Power Chase, when Enjoy Dalen was 3rd in that race. And that race itself last year was a very good, nice trial for the national itself, because Manila Times comes 2nd, I think, in that race before going on to win at Aintree. He's got a very nice weight going into the national. And I hope he comes here, and I hope he runs a good race for this, because I think if he does, he's currently 33 to 1 for the Grand National. And I just like the way he goes about his business. I felt at Leopardstown last time, he won by a narrow margin. I didn't think he was giving his all. I thought his ears were pricked. He was probably saving a little bit for himself. But I'm praying, I've got everything crossed, between now and April he gets in the Grand National, because I firmly think if he goes there, I know Ted Walsh said as well on the national weights release that he thinks this horse is very well treated too. And I think if he goes to Aintree all in one piece, should he get in, I would be very shocked if he's not in the first three.
Excellent. Well, there's only a couple that I've actually had a look at for this race. Unfortunately, Schoolboy Hours is not one of them. So that's your selection. Hopefully we'll all be different in this race. There's a few I like. Champagne Platinum will stay all day. And I think he will no doubt run his race. Are we going to see a David Maxwell masterclass on Cat Tiger? Because he's also in this. But obviously I've noted him. Again, though, I think it would be very touch and go. I think this is much hotter than anything he's had to go in. But the horse I like. Now, if I'm right in thinking, this week, or the weekend just gone rather, I'm fairly certain Gordon Elliott said that conditional jockey Rob James is going to be riding Frontal Assault.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Who I think wants a stay-in trip. And that's my selection. I think he's crying out for one. Obviously, they've got this has been a plan for a long time. And I don't know, I just find that maybe the Irish do this race better. So he'd be my selection, Frontal Assault.
Okay, and Tom, for you and the Kim Muir, who are you what's jumping out at you in this?
Frontal Assault.
I've been flanked by twice.
I'll be brutally honest with you. All his best runs have come at 3 miles, and he's been running at 2.4 this season. Make of that what you will. Laid out for it.
Okay, is that all we've got to say on that, or?
That is everything.
Okie dokie, right, we're going to move into the fourth and final day. We're on the home straight now of our preview, and we're going to talk about the Triumph Hurdle here. I'm going to say on paper, it looks, a lot of people are probably thinking it's going to be a straight shootout between Vauban and Pied Piper here. I'll start off by talking about Night Salute, a horse who I've been a very big fan of ever since he won round Kempton in October when he beat Impulsive One. And I know Mitch, the jockey on board that day, was very happy, and I also know he was very surprised. I don't think he quite expected Night Salute to win so well. Ever since, Paddy Brennan's taken the ride, and he's gone on to win at Doncaster. I think it was the Summit he won before going to Kempton. Was it the Summit? Yeah, no, it was the Summit Juvenile Hurdle before going on to Kempton to win the Adonis. Look, I think he might find Vauban and Pied Piper a bit too good here, and even Fildor possibly if he turns up too. But I think at 10 to 1, he's got a good chance here. And also, I'll mention at the bottom of the market a horse called Teddy Blue, who has only had 2 starts over hurdles, but he was in the process of running a fantastic race in that Adonis. He was up alongside Night Salute going down to the last, and he flattened the last, and it put an end to his chances. And I have been thinking, if he jumped the last better, what might have happened? He's 20 to 1 on the back of that. And my slight negative of him is he's a hard puller. And from his 2 starts, he's pulled quite hard. You'd be hoping they go a good gallop here from to settle. And if he settles, I know Connections fancy a rematch with Night Salute. They believe they can reverse that form. So there's 2 there at the prices who I think have run well.
Well, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm Pied Piper all the way.
Very nice horse, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Just what he did at Cheltenham was absolutely lovely, in addition to his previous runs.
Good flat pedigree too.
Yeah.
And
what about Jack?
Yeah, Jack, for you, mate?
Well, there's definitely one horse I will not be having a bet on, and that is a certain Gaelic Warrior. I don't know what the fuss is about him at all.
You get me started. I've had to mute that name because I hear people all the time think he's chucked in. I saw a tweet the other day with some like GCSE maths workings out about why he's not chucked in and why he is chucked in. And I just think to myself, he's not ran since June. I cannot back a horse like that with too much confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And this is also a horse that's supposedly going for the Fred Winter as well. And he's not even chucked in that. So if he's not even chucked in the Fred Winter and he doesn't even make the grade in there, then what chance does he have in a Triumph Hurdle? I have absolutely no idea personally. Field Door, the Dreams have dashed at Leopardstown, but he's been previously very good. Now, the best British Hope is probably Knight's Salute, and you can't be anything other than impressed with what he's done. However, for me, I don't know. I just think whilst it'd be lovely for the Milton Harris team, I just don't think that there's enough strong form in the race. I mean, you could argue that he beat Porticello, who's since gone on to win the finale hurdle at Chepstow. But even that, I just don't know. I'm a little bit sort of, I'm struggling a bit. The two that I've obviously come down, no surprise, Pied Piper and Vauban. But the only thing I'll say about the two is I'm actually going to go for Vauban. So again, I'm being completely different to Tom. So the twin sense isn't working. But the reason I'm going for Vauban is because I think if Pied Piper doesn't move around a bit at Punchestown, I think Vauban beats him. And obviously we know how good Pied Piper was when he came over to the UK and absolutely smashed the field. Admittedly, I don't think it was this very strong grade 2. I actually think it was quite weak, but it was still hard to be anything other than impressed with Pied Piper. But no, I just feel Vauban, I think he'll turn the table. I think he was doing all of his best work at the end of the races. Again, he's clearly a strong traveller and he also knows how to quicken. So that would be my shout.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a race where, before we move on, I think I agree with Knight Salute. I think he's a lovely horse, but I just think he might end up finding too Irish too hot, and I think he could finish fourth. Just before we move on, what are we thinking with Porticello quickly?
Lovely horse. I think he's absolutely gorgeous, but we've seen the best of him over fences.
Okay, perfect. Okay, right. We'll now move into the county hurdle. It's probably one of the final big minefield handicaps the entire week here. I've got a very nice fancy in this. Go on, Tom, you kick off.
I haven't actually got a picture of this, so I need to look at it closer to the day.
No problem, that's okay. I'm a big fan of West Cork in this. The Skeltons have a good record in this. I think it was Chittabello who won this a couple of years ago. And am I right in saying Mahayad won it too, or did he win something else?
Yep, Mahayad definitely did, because that was that lovely picture with Harry and his now wife Bridget at the finishing line.
There's been a good record for the Skeltons in this race.
Superb Story won it.
Yeah,
years ago, run in October. Then they saved him for this, and he hacked up.
It's a race that I think the Skelton has been very kind to Skeltons in the past. And I look at this Great Wood Hurdle that he won at the start of the season, and there's some nice horses in behind who've subsequently done the form a load of good. Glory and Fortune being one of them. You've got Botox Hasnir too, who's done very well since. Cormier won last time out as well, up at Kelso. And also even at Ascot last time, he finished fifth in behind Tritonic in the Betfair Exchange Trophy. One more for the road to finish second that day, and he's going to Sandown for the Imperial Cup. And I already fancy him for that already. He's currently 12-1 for that. So I'm hoping he'll run well. And also down the field that day was a certain Goshen before he turned the corner and picked up 2 grade 2s around the right-handed track in Wincanton and Sandown. But I just think West Cork here, he's got 11 stone 1. That's a lovely weight, I think, for a handicap. And I think he's going to come here. And I'm pretty sure on Dan Skelton's press release day, he said it was the best chance of the week for them. And I'm firmly in the camp of that. I think 7-1 here is a fantastic price. They got a great record in the race too. Ticks all the boxes for me. And I think it's got a fantastic chance at 7s.
Well, I've actually put on my notes, I've put West Cork, limitations and a question mark, because I still can't find any. I'm still scratching my head and thinking, again, like Tom, I'm going to take a little bit more of a more in-depth look into this race when the declarations have finally been made. But at the moment, I can tell it's already dominated by the Irish. The Devil's Coachman, it's bold if he runs here. Magic Tricks are some good form, but is he slightly too high in the weight? But the horse I like is I like to move it. I really do.
I want to go here, definitely. I'd rather him go here than Supreme, I think.
I really, really think if he goes here, it's definitely the more appropriate race, and I think he'll run a cracker.
Okay.
At hopefully a good price.
Yeah, he's around about double digits. I think he's around 10s or 12s. Let me just have a quick look.
That'll do.
He is 10s at the moment, 10-1. West Cork 7s, I like to move it 10. The Devils Coachman 10-2. So a pair of 10-1s there. Okay, that sounds perfectly fine to me. I think we're ready to move into the Albert Bartlett. It's a race for me I haven't got too much of an opinion on, but we'll start off with Hillcrest. I absolutely adore this horse. I just think he's a big beast, almost like a big cuddly bear, in my opinion. He's a big beast of a horse. He's crying out to be a decent chaser. I think he will end up being a national type horse in years to come because of the ownership and just how well he won last time out when he went up on the front end at Haydock. I really expect him to sort of fall away, but he didn't. He kept on galloping. And I just think I think he's got a cracking chance here, but I really hope that next year he sort of steps into his own and becomes an absolute machine over fences.
Be a chaser. You think he's going to be a chaser? Look at the size of him. Again, he could eat the chair for breakfast if he goes over the national fences. He really could. He's huge, and he would be my selection if Classic Getaway doesn't run. Because I think that lad's a staying chaser in the making as well. So if he runs, he's what 20-1 now for that one. Exactly. So he'd be my each way tip. If they both run in that race, then woohoo!
Yeah, he's 20-1 Classic Getaway. Yeah. And Jack, for you, who are you sort of swaying with in the potato race?
Well, the potato race, I think, are quite like the chances of Malala Kakuna. I know that, again, on the Cheltenham Festival previewing out the races, I know they were quite sweet on the horse, but it's impossible to ignore Hillcrest. You just can't do it. I mean, for me, what makes it even more impressive is he got unfairly brought down on Festival Trials Day, and that can knock a horse's confidence, especially if they've just been absolutely wiped out by another horse. He then goes to Haydock, and if you watch that race again, he jumps the last. Now, I know the comments have said that his jumping was novice-y, but I'm not caring about that at all, because the way this horse has taken off after the last and ground it out, I was impressed.
Yeah.
And that's all I need.
Perfect.
Nothing more to be said.
Yeah, I'm firmly in the Hillcrest camp for this. I think this is it all three for Hillcrest? I think it was.
All three. Apart from Tom, if his beloved Getaway doesn't run.
Okay, right. Now it brings us on to the big one of the entire week, the Blue Ribbon, the Gold Cup. It's a race, if I'm being very honest, I can't really have a massive opinion on. Applutard's current favourite for this. I'm just not convinced Applutard's going to stay the Gold Cup trip. He didn't stay it last year, so what's going to make it? What makes me think he's going to win it this year?
Nothing.
I think personally, it's going to be down to one or two horses. I think it'd be either, well, three technically. Galvin brings stamina into it, and he's obviously got a lot going for him. Manila Indo comes right this time of year. Yes, they ran a stinker at King George, but they always do in the middle of the year. But also there's the Unknown Quantity and Protectorate, who we were very lucky enough to see at Stud. He's only about an hour or so away from us on his summer holidays. So there he was, pina colada in hand, and suddenly he's having his picture taken.
Can I just quickly say about Protectorate? I think if people are taking that many clouds on face value, it's a potential banana skin. He's beaten all but retired Native River, and there wasn't too much else in the race that day. I don't think he's going to stay. I know the Skeltons do think he will. He should have won the Paddy Power Gold Cup. He made a couple of mistakes, flew home that day with Midnight Shadow paddling up the hill like a man after 10 pints. For me, and this is an open question to you both, is Galvin this year synchronized, do you think, just on the basis that he might end up outstaying everything?
See, Galvin is really scratching my head, because whilst you can say he's done nothing wrong, for me, and I know we spoke about this the other day, he doesn't strike me as your automatic Gold Cup horse, which probably means he is the synchronized. He doesn't strike me as like your typical sort of, if you imagine your 3 Mile Gold Cup chasers, the likes of Denman, Corto Star, he just doesn't strike me as a prize fighter. He really doesn't. And I know that he's clearly in very good form. He's done nothing wrong all season. But I see, I keep having these opinions. I just think, is he Gold Cup class? And that's what I can't seem to work out at the minute. I mean, probably come a week on Friday, I'd have changed my mind anyway and said, yes, he's absolutely get in. And I know we'll all be screaming for Galvin, but I think I agree with you on Aplutara. I don't think I could bet on him. He was clearly very good at Haydock, very good.
Partlow.
But Haydock, yeah, but it's a different track to Cheltenham. Many horses who run well at Haydock run absolute stinkers at Cheltenham. Look at Bristol de Mai. You know, Bristol de Mai is a Haydock specialist.
Yeah.
But he struggles around Cheltenham. You know, there's probably people laughing at that comment, but you know, I don't think the amount of times he's run at Cheltenham, he should be winning more than he has. So I think, yeah, just to close on Galvin, I think he's done nothing wrong, but is he Gold Cup class?
I definitely think he's in that synchronized boat where he's a Grand National horse in a Gold Cup on the basis that he might just end up outstaying everything. Where we looked at synchronized year he won the Gold Cup, he just came from nowhere, turning for home. He was never the winner, and then everything else sort of paddled. I think the Giant Bolster came there, looked like he was going to win the race, but then out of nowhere comes synchronized, ping the last, and then bombed up the hill. As far as we look down the markets here, I cannot have Chantry House if you paid me to back the horse. I watched this horse and I watched him at Cheltenham, and I don't get any enjoyment out of watching him. I think everything's done slowly. I think it's workmanlike. There's a reason why he's in the Grand National was because, quite frankly, he's a plodder. He's very much the JP McManus' version of Santini, in my opinion. He's very much a horse who, if he doesn't get his own way, he sulks, as we saw in the King George when he was roughed and mucked about and he got pulled up. Jumped terribly that day too, in my opinion. He can't jump well enough to win a Gold Cup. I can't have him. I Right is in this at 66-1. Why is he 66-1 yet Santini's 40-1? I don't quite understand that.
Santini would have to start running now.
Why is he shorter than I Right? I don't understand.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. I think
them two are only in it because they grind it out and they grind it out and grind it out. You know, they could run absolute screamers and come in at a really nice price, but for win value, you couldn't really go for them. Santini, Polly Gundry is going to do an absolutely great job with him. You know, because he ran really well in the Cotswold for a long way.
Well, the inch she's definitely worked a magic there with him. Two good runs.
I can't wait to see him in the National if he gets in.
Yeah, I think I just hope if he goes to the National, it's going to have to be on soft ground because he'll get outpaced, as we saw with Bristol last year and Potter's Corner last year on the quick ground. It was, as Daryl Jacobs said, it happened too quick for Bristol, and they need to have that soft ground as an equaliser. So unless it's soft, I don't think you get anywhere near winning a Grand National. But we'll wrap this up now quickly. I cannot go on without mentioning about the two-time winner Album Photo quickly. As far as I'm concerned with him, why is he not talked about in the same breath as a Courtauld Star and a Best Mate in terms of being multiple Gold Cup winners? He's hardly mentioned. I thought the public just have never warmed to him. I think he's got a cracking chance here. I think he's 10-1 here. I think he'd be my bet in the Gold Cup, just for the fact that he's been there before, done it before twice, and he's taken the same path again coming into this. I think in a race where there's a few question marks over Protectorat and Aplutard stamina, the person who's the horse, he's been there before. He's 10-1. And if he wins a third Gold Cup, unfortunately for him, it will probably be forgotten about by the time the Fox Hunters has been run.
I think the only thing I'd say about, and I am going to try and be quite quick to wrap this up, is Album Photo was poor at Tremor. I actually don't think he was as good as he really should have been. I know Willie Mullins was looking at changing up his training pattern for this year, but that really went to pot. I don't know. I could be kicking myself. It's a race I'd love to say I've picked the winner of, for obvious reasons. Manella Indo, reigning champ, saved his best for Cheltenham, I suppose, but just don't get the vibes as such. So it's another race I'd have to have a bloody good look at. But I think it's between Album Photo and Manella Indo, with Galvin potentially picking up the pieces if those two don't perform at their best.
I think I Right runs a big race at a big price. Okie dokie, right. We're going to move into the Hunter's Chase now. It's the race which I know both yourself, Jack, and Tom have a big opinion on. So I'll let you both take the lead on this. What are you both thinking for this?
Well, I'm personally thinking that the race, whilst the Irish always have a very good contingent coming over, we've had in the past the great and amazing horses such as Salsify and whatnot. I do think this year it's going to Britain. There's two horses out there who I think potentially could run really well. You've got the Aintree Fox Hunter winner, Cousin Pascal, for the team at Joel Shares. And, whilst this is a shorter race that he was running at Aintree, but it was over the national fence, is a different test. And you can see how much it meant to the team afterwards. This is 5 furlongs longer on an undulating course. And I'm thinking, has he got the stamina for it? I don't know. For win purposes, I couldn't take him, but I do think there's a horse out there who's 16-1, and I can't work out why. And his name is Premier Magic. He's the Lady Dudley Cup winner at Chaddesley Corbett, which, if you don't know, anyone watching this, the Lady Dudley Cup is one of the most prestigious races in the point-to-point calendar. It's run every April at Chaddesley Corbett, which is a brilliant track to attend, so please flood down there in April, and he's on the upgrade. He beat Porlock Bay, last year's Fox Hunter Chase winner, in December at Chaddesley and smashed River Myth by 20 lengths there. This lad, it was supposed to be a very somber day on the day of the Lady Dudley last year because it was the great Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. But there was a real joy about it when he completely hosed up at Chaddesley. And you thought that on a somber day, this has put a smile on people's faces. And I think he's still absolutely well in. And I think after this race, he won't go to Aintree. He won't go to Punchestown. He'll go for the mixed open final at Cheltenham in late April, early May, whenever Hunter Chase meeting is. And I'd very much like to see him there, actually, because he is a horse who's very much going places. And I think this is going to have to be a good one to take him.
You made a very good case. You convinced me.
I think following up from that, obviously, this is where years of point-to-point experience come in really handy. This is a race I always love. I don't think I've shouted so hard for a horse when Hazel Hill won a few years ago. Oh my word. When I talk about Hazel Hill, now for anybody who doesn't know about point-to-pointing, Hazel Hill retired in May of last year. They ran their final race at Chaddesley Corbett and they won their final race. They'd always wanted to go out with a win. This is a horse that when they came to the point-to-point scene, they set the world alight. They were winning every race. And they were long talked about as a good thing. And when they went to Philip Rowley, the trainer and him, Alex Edwards, the jockey, they built up this fantastic partnership with the horse. So I was absolutely delighted for the team to win in 2019, I think it was. Could have been 2020. Like, somebody correct me, I can't remember the exact.
I think it was 2019, I think.
19, I think it was.
Yeah, it was.
But yes, it was, of course it was, because Port Bay won last year, and the year before that was 2020 was It Came to Pass.
I backed Port last year. Lorcan Williams, give him a peach. I said it. I said say his horses to him, not on it. They give him a peach.
Absolutely. A few others that we haven't talked about is Bill Away. It might be his year this year, but I don't know. He just seems to always come up short in these sorts of races.
Every time, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Cat Tiger's consistent. Could run a screamer. Could do a Shantou Flyer.
Bob and Co's. I think Bob and Co's Maxwell's best pick in that race. I think you should ride him.
Well, this is it. Yeah, Bob and Co's also in the race. So again, Tom mentioned Cousin Pascal for the Joe Share team. Obviously, we saw how much it meant to Joe Share to win the Aintree version of this race. His horse isn't without a chance. And I know that's what Joe Share excels in, is these strong, big chasers. It's only a small team as well, so it'd be absolutely fantastic for the yard. Late Night Pass, another consistent type for Tom Ellis. But I think the winner, even though Moratorium won at Larkill and we were there, I think the winner is Premier Magic. I think this is, if there's one horse I'm going to be going into the entire meeting, like absolutely screaming the house down, it's going to be Premier Magic. I think this race is his for the taking personally.
Well, he's a lovely price, and you've convinced me. So I think my money's going up. Well, my money will be going on him as well. I think you've given him a glowing.
I just hope, with everything at hand, I just hope that the loads amount of media who've got access don't ignore this race, because it's going to be someone's day in the sun.
That's what
normally.
I don't like.
Half the media who get the access there are too busy getting the photos out for the Gold Cup. They don't care about the Fox Hunters. It's a huge shame, because it's the Amateurs Gold Cup. It's the biggest day of the year. It's their day in the sun, etc. And if they're looking for pictures afterwards of their big day and they can find hardly any, it'd be a huge insult to them. So if anyone's got accreditation there, for God's sake, don't let them down. Don't miss them, because they deserve their time in the sun.
And just quickly, I'll talk about Shantu Flyer, solid horse at Cheltenham, been placed in an Ultima, placed in several Ds. I just think wrapping this up, he's 12 now. I just think he might be a bit vulnerable to younger legs at his age now.
He's vulnerable to a very good Premier Magic.
I have to agree after reading or listening to your both glowing references. We'll wrap this up then with the Martin Pipe. I've not got too much opinion on Mare's Chase, and
Gin on lime, 12-1. Get the gin on limes in.
Okay. Perfect. That's sorted then in about 5 seconds, which is wonderful. Right. We'll finally now talk about the Martin Pipe. I'm very much a fan of Langadan in this. Kevin Blake confirmed what I thought was a horse who I think has got a cracking chance in this. How the hell did Galopin des Champs go off 6-1 for this last year? If we all knew back then what we know now, I think the wheelbarrows would have came out. We'd all be probably selling ourselves up on some sort of yacht somewhere in the Med. But he's Langadan bumped into him last year. He's going to come back this year. I wouldn't know who's going to ride him though. I don't know who will end up riding him. Well, who rode him last year? Quickly, let me have a quick look. This is extremely unprofessional for me to actually do this. I think it was Lorcan Williams rode him last year. Okay, whether or not he'll ride him again.
I don't know who was riding him last year, because I was too busy screaming for Galopin des Champs, because he was on an absolute flyer. I absolutely loved to watch that race over and over again, because I thought he was absolutely superb.
Do you think State Man's going to go here? He's got multiple entries. Do you think he'll end up here? And it'll
probably will. Probably will. The one I like, well, there's two that I like in this. There's Hollow Games. I think he's been running in much better class races than this. And if he comes into this with a very good conditional jockey on board, he's going to do another Galopin des Champs. He's going to absolutely hose up. But what I would also love to see is Herbier run well for the Oliver Greenall team.
He's a
massive price. Don't know if he's going to absolutely get in at the moment. But I would love to see him run well, because I think Oliver Greenall deserves a nice Cheltenham Festival runner. I know he's got a very good horse for the future in Iroko, owned by JP McManus. He's run twice in the UK. He's come fourth on both of his occasions, but all of his best work has been going at the end of the race. So he's definitely one for the future. But Herbier won at Sandown last year very nicely too, with Paddy Brennan on board. Obviously, Paddy won't be on board for this race, but I think he's definitely worth looking at a big price. But I think for this one, it would be Hollow Games for me.
And Tom, for you to wrap things up, who's your sort of fancy here?
Well, there's quite a lot there. You've got the great Stu Williams has tipped up today. In fact, Hollow Games. Anyone who reads him,
oh, that's it. That's it. I'm placing a bet and I'm going to collect. That's one. Yeah.
I think Hollow Games looks to be one who could be creeping around.
Yeah, if he gets in, and if Stu's right, that one's naturally going to win, because Stu never goes a day without a winner. It doesn't happen. I would also love to see Herbier get in and run a good race for Oliver Greenall. There's a jockey absolutely flying at the minute called Toby Wynn, who is, he's picked up another win today. He picked up a win at the point-to-point yesterday in a couple of places, and he won again the day before. So, I mean, all we're doing at the minute is going, who's Toby riding? Where is he riding? He's gone up to one race somewhere at Sedgefield, and we're like, right, all your money on that one. I'd love to see him get there because he's a smashing lad as well, really, really dedicated to the job. So if he gets in, that's fantastic. Naturally, my horse will probably be, if he gets in here, Deploy the Getaway. He won his 3 mile point extremely well by 20 lengths, despite not realising the last fence was there, and he went through it. All he does is gallop, and he'll get that there, because they will go off like, about 24, 25, 26 stabbed rats, really. But there is one who, now this is where people have said I'm mad before. They might think now I'm the Mad Hatter out of the Alice in Wonderland books. Back in August, myself and Jack were at Cartmel for the Cartmel Cup. Beautiful course, even better people. Sticky Toffee Pudding is heaven. We just loved the place and we can't wait to go back. And whilst we were there photographing the Cartmel Cup, the winner was a well-touted horse who had been running for the flat for Godolphin, got bought to go over jumps, and was trained over the other side of the town by James Moffat. And the horse in question is Alcazar. Now, he won that race, and I said to myself, after looking at his handicap mark, I thought he only needs to go up another £2 to £3 to get onto a winnable mark for the Greatwood handicap hurdle at Cheltenham in November. And he wasn't entered for it because, unfortunately, he made an uncharacteristic mistake, and his enterprising jockey, Charlotte Jones, went out the side door. But I thought that if he got in and he gets into a race like that, he might be one that will come in at an absolutely massive price of 66 to 1 at least.
Currently,
however,
365, 50s at the moment.
50s at the moment. However, he was meant to run at Kelso at the weekend and he didn't take up his entry. So
bumper.
He was in the Moor Battle. It was meant to be the Moor Battle hurdle. He didn't get in because he got it declared and then was taken out. But then again, another horse from Moffat's was taken out. So was it the ground perhaps? But I just think if he gets in, then you could find her going, this horse has got basically no weight on them and is absolutely flying from the back and could give the North of England a well-deserved winner and a well-deserved win on the curtain, the curtain closer. But if they don't run, it will be Deploy the Getaway.
Okay,
if they don't run, I'll be absolutely screwed. I'll probably go Hollow Games.
Yeah, I can't say at the moment I've got too much of a strong pick. Langadan, I think, has got a chance. I did like to look at Quinto de Mar for Ben Pauling at a price. He's 25s. He was last seen when falling in the Lanzarote. I can't imagine who's going to ride him at the moment, but whoever does has got a good chance there. But yeah, it should be a fantastic festival, and I thank you both for joining me tonight. It's been a very enjoyable preview. Hopefully people won't back our predictions blind because we're not self-proclaimed tipsters. So if anyone starts whinging and moaning, we're not going to take any.
All we're going to say is, as photographers, we do have a keen interest in horse racing. All our big interest in the minute is getting back into regular racing accreditation. So just want to say, if it is people want to see what we do, and if you are a publication out there who's looking for some good photographers, then we're ready to take up the mantle, and we just really want to be at the festival next year producing imagery. You know, we've been up and down the country, and that's why we're not tipsters. We're literally just saying if we had a bit of money, we'd put on that one. Just what you do, because at the end of the day, we're all built in as we have a love for the horse, a love for the sport, and that's where this all comes from, really. Whether you be a photographer, tipster, stable lad or lass, or even the trainer, you all have a love for the horse from somewhere, and that's where we've all started. So I think I quite like that one. And it wouldn't be inclined to say that we do, as photographers, get a bit excited when we go to the big meeting to see the really nice horses.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think you're both definitely worth taking the chance on. If anyone reads my weekly articles and previews, you see the exemplary imagery supplied by Jack and Tom in those, and across all point-to-point meetings and under rules as well they attend. Thank you both for joining me tonight. It's been a very good, enjoyable, almost 3 hours nearly now, so we've actually had a very good time. For people watching this, yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Right.
Thank you very much.
Stop